What is up, RotoGrinders? Dean here. Dean, that's Dean 78904. That's the daily fantasy handle to hopefully take some money down, going down on FanDuel and on DraftKings. Some monster tournaments this week. Past the quarter pole, kind of at the quarter pole. It's week 5 NFL DFS. It always sort of flies right by. 2/3 of the Tournament Takes podcast as per usual. It's Kid Yahoo Kirkwood. Kirkwood, you're a little bit more. You're not as flustered as you have been previous weeks because your child is not with you or not in the same room today. Or is that what's going on over there? We're gonna have your full attention. We're gonna be smashing this show. Start at 2+ hours, 2.5. You want to get let's do some math there. Yeah, we take you guys straight up to kickoff. 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock Eastern. What's up, Kirkwood? How are things in your world? Things doing okay?
Oh, things are crazy hectic. Man, this kid is more than I signed up for. I mean, it's more than I've ever imagined. But
what did you imagine? What was not in the brosure?
Okay, I'm a dog guy, right? All my life I've had dogs, right? And I've had hard dogs. I had, Phil, he had to get that spinal surgery. I had another dog who had a collapsed trachea, and I had to give medicine around the clock, like every 4 hours, like get up. So I'm like, it can't be harder than these 2 dogs. Bring it on. Give me the kid. This kid does not stop. I guess he's like in the gassy phase or whatever it is, but he is just screaming Willie Beeman all day long for the last couple of days. She just took him to her parents' house. Lauren did. So I got a little bit of silence and solace over here. So I'm ready. I'm ready to lock in. Have a good slate today. Let's go.
Shout out to Any Given Sunday, Willie Beeman. There you go. Good movie. Still holds up, by the way.
Very good movie. Very good sports movie, I'd say, Dean.
We don't talk about it enough, do we? It's a good movie.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
No, I don't know why. By the way, I think Deion Sanders did a song just like the song Willie Beeman did in that movie. What's an aside? Hit the YouTube later after the show.
Make the ladies start creaming. Is that that's
my name is Willie Beeman, and like all the ladies. Yeah. But there's another part. No, it must be the money. I think it is the song. Is that in that movie?
Oh, I remember that. Must be. I remember him.
I think it's in the movie, and like Deion Sanders did a song just like that. Doesn't matter. People don't care. Bobby's here also, former Millionaire Maker winner. Maybe he's going to do it again. We'll see. Back in the line, Bobby.
What's up, dude? It's nothing. I'm in the same boat as Kirkwood. Like, my kid's been absolutely out of control. He just turned 4 months, so it's like not a lot of sleep, but we're getting there. We're moving through. So
they're like future best friends, right? You guys are basically neighbors.
Pretty much, yeah, probably.
I mean, hopefully we turn into like each other's babysitters. You know what I mean? Like kind of free us up a little bit.
But you're going to be doing stuff with each other, theoretically. How does that work?
I don't know. Maybe
we'll be taking him to
maybe Lauren will take his kid at times, and maybe his beautiful is it fiance, wife, significant other? How do you
friend?
Girlfriend, but I'm supposed to be popping the question pretty soon. I don't know how loud I should have said that, but
yeah, great girl. But maybe she'll help out. But no, what's going to happen? I signed up for. It's going to be a crazy. Lauren's going back to work soon, and I'm going to be the one like, oh yeah, I got it, and
you don't have it.
I don't have it. No.
How about? Do you have this slate, Kirkwood? What we don't have in the slate is no Pat Mahomes. We have no legit tight ends, no great tight ends, no Kelsey, no Andrews, Waller. If you want to throw in that conversation as well, no Lamar. Of course, there's a game going on right now in London, so it's not a 13 gamer, it's a 12 gamer. I believe we start buys next week, so get used to that size as far as the main slate. No, you don't. You know what else you don't have? You don't have a team total above 50, not even above 49. I think it's 48.5 currently in Arizona. I believe that's the biggest total on the board. Give me the screenshot. Give me the overview as far as the slate, because it feels pretty wide open to me.
Yeah, so you're right. So basically, it always starts. We got 12 games, got no 50-point totals, like you just said. We've got a couple of games that could have the right ingredients to pop off here, but it wouldn't also shock me if they kind of bust as well. And that would be like Eagles, Arizona. Eagles have a great defense. Maybe this game pops off. A lot of people are saying it's not going to, and the Eagles defense is too good. I'm on the other camp. I kind of like Arizona in this one, but I'm kind of pot committed with Arizona. So
You think they cover, or are they score enough to keep the game close?
No, I'm just hoping. I'm hoping we get a Kyler week at like no ownership is what I'm hoping.
Well, you've seen nothing to suggest that's going to happen.
No, I did see that he had 12 rushing attempts in his last game, which I think, if that's right, don't quote me on that.
I wonder how many of those are designed.
Yeah, he had 12. Yeah, but the fact is he's running. He did not run whatsoever for the first 3 games. So I saw a little inkling of hope there. Plus, Rondale Moore is back, which is, to me, makes this offense better. The funny thing is they won last week when they scored 26 points. They beat the Raiders too. They played KC and the Rams. They haven't had the easiest of schedules. They haven't looked good, granted, so I get it. But you saw what Jamal Agnew just did to this matchup that Rondale Moore steps into. So if he can do it, I'm hoping Rondale can do it for dirt cheap. So that's I've already given away my favorite stack here. But so you nailed it though. No Lamar, no Mahomes, which also means no Andrews, no Kelsey, right? So we've got like Higbee chalk, right? Like, and is he gonna do what Hawkinson chalk did? I doubt it. We'll see. But we have a bunch of plays that don't scream. We have a lot of chalk that I don't necessarily think that really should be chalk. So I don't think we have a lot of good chalk.
You have an overview, Bobby, before we kind of break it down position by position. Do want to say what's up to the chat? Kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. Don't go anywhere because 2 hours and 20 minutes of football taking y'all straight up the lock will be relieved by who's coming in later. I believe it's let's see, Beimfohr and Tasteful Tides. You got Andre, also a former millionaire maker, and the Luch, as well as Kristi, who's always going to some live finals. Bobby, your take, anything you want to add as far as the overview, anything that we did not touch on?
Yeah, I think there's two main decision points. What you do at Brady, and then I think a sneakier decision point on the slate is where Jeff Wilson's going to come in relative to ownership, because I'm seeing him very high, but I'm also, when I'm running stuff, I'm not getting him as much as I thought I would with the ownership that I'm seeing around the industry. So I'm wondering if that could be a Josh Jacobs type situation. Those are the two main things in tournaments that I'm like trying to currently figure out how to approach Brady, and then that situation, or paying when you pay down at running back, because you're going to have to pay down at running back in spots.
Yeah, the mid-tier running back looks pretty good. What's interesting is that Kirkwood, you threw out more, and like I was looking at DK specifically, but also it's true on FanDuel. It's like I was trying to find a receiver under 5K on DK that you feel like pretty good about. And like it's probably more. It's like the first guy at like 4-1. There's somebody else that I was looking at. Like basically, like there's not. Oh, unless of course this Buffalo situation and McKenzie sits, which it looks like it's likely. Nothing official just yet. Actives and inactives coming an hour and a half before 11:30 on the East Coast. But it looks like Shakir could be interesting, and he's almost no minimum. He's 3.2K. But you have a thought of that, Kirkwood? I know we're gonna do quarterbacks first, but just like receivers, you mentioned Moore is one of your favorite plays, and I guess he's one of your favorite cheapies, but there's not a lot, right? There's not a lot out there that you should feel great about. Maybe the other side of that game with Buffalo, kind of a run back with Pickens, who's 4-3, but it's pretty scarce for me. I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, it's scarce. I kind of like Zay Jones, but a lot of these guys are dinged up a little bit, so, I'm expecting Zay to play, and I'm expecting him to be healthy. It wouldn't shock me if he's not. So, but there's we do have some stronger mid-range plays today. So, yeah. and we don't really need the super high-end plays unless you're trying to jam Cooper Kupp in. It's pretty much, you can do it. You can figure it out. So I don't think we have we don't have that need so much for the 3K cheapie, although it would be nice. But Moore is my favorite cheap guy, and he's been banged up too again, and was on the injury report all week. So it's there's risk there for sure, but that's what we do, is we take some risks.
William in chat saying, what about Callaway? Callaway's 3-3, I guess playable. I don't feel great about it. Dalton on the other end throwing footballs to him. Several people saying what has Rondale Moore ever done? Which is a fair question. He's fine, but but he's also what does he have to do?
Moore's utilization ticked up last week.
His snap counts were way up. He was out there running routes.
Yeah,
which is
they're trying to involve him a little differently too, I think.
You have a thought on that, Bobby, before we kind of jump the quarterback? But I think it's an important question, like saving salary, or just like, is the build today, it's you're going to be hitting the mid-tier, and that's basically what it is. And maybe you take advantage of that in tournaments. You're playing the moneymaker. You spend up on guys like CMC or Henry or Eckler that just, people aren't going to get there. Even Cooper Kupp, who's just the nuts every single week. It's just within the normal salary cap, and it's hard to get to him sometimes. Or Jefferson on Minnesota, another guy that's going to get kind of lost. What's your general thought as far as that, as far as build? Are you finding, and I presume optimals are giving you basically mid-tier stuff, right? The mid-tier is pretty good considering our biggest total on the board is like 48, but your build process, or maybe a favorite cheapie as far as wide receivers?
Yeah, you hit it on construction. It's more baseline. Like it's hitting the mid-tier. So in that situation, like I'm trying to pay up for these premium guys. I'll have a lot of Cup, a lot of Jefferson, Henry, McCaffrey, doing stuff different in that regard to try to flip the construction.
Shakir in cash. Greg's at. I don't think you're supposed to play Shakir in cash. I don't think you need to.
That seems thin, unless, that seems pretty thin.
If McKenzie doesn't go, then like maybe, but still, it does seem pretty thin. And then we'll talk about tight ends. I want to know if you guys have like an Otten take. Maybe tight ends are so terrible, and you're betting on the entire position essentially to fail. A couple guys are going to get there. You just kind of sort of have to. But if it's going to fail, maybe spend the least amount of money on it failing, and maybe we'll play a guy like Otten for Tampa. Nice total there, and of course Brate being out. I did make a lineup before the show with him as my FanDuel tight end because everything else looks glorious over there. And hopefully the tight end position just mostly fails as far as that lineup's concerned. But let's talk about quarterbacks. I'll throw it to you, Kirkwood, as far as quarterbacks. And there's two pretty clear ones. And like even Bobby was talking about, and DK specifically, just the discount you're getting on Brady, it's significant enough that makes him, what I'm seeing right now is the highest projected quarterback on DK, and that's more of a DK thing than a FanDuel thing. On FanDuel, Allen and Ertz are pretty clearly the top two guys as far as ownership. If you're playing cash games on FanDuel, you're not playing Allen or Ertz, try again. You should just definitely get one of those two. But it's Allen, it's Ertz. Two guys with legs, two guys with awesome offenses to be attached to, big team totals. We don't have to worry about weather today, which is nice. I saw some gusts in Buffalo, but that's kind of standard, maybe 50 miles per hour. So nothing I'm afraid of. But yeah, Kirkwood, your thoughts as far as quarterbacks, and I guess we got to bring Brady into the conversation. Of course we do on DK.
Yeah. So at the top, Josh Allen. There's a lot to like about Josh Allen. First of all, it's just so gosh darn consistent, right? Like this guy is just ridiculous every week. Just puts up the numbers. The offense is all runs through him completely. They're a massive favorite against Pitt, which has been a leaky defense for sure. But his worst game has been at 24.5 last week in horrible weather, right? So third most passing attempts, fourth in rushing yards, second in rushing TDs. He's everything you want. I don't need to sit here and praise up Josh Allen. I like him. I think he's going to put up points. Now, will they stay their foot, pedal to the gas here? I'm not so sure, but I think if that is the case, he'll have done enough to be pretty fantasy worthy today, and if he uses his legs in this one, which he may very well, he could just absolutely go off if this game stays closer, which one of, JSU, our third member of our Tournament Takes podcast, he thinks that Pickett's going to make the Steelers a lot better, and he thinks they're going to keep up in this game. And if that's the case, then Josh Allen could just nuke. Jalen Hurts is the other guy right below him in a game with Arizona. Arizona's passing defense is horrendous, 28th in DVOA versus the pass. He's been the QB3 so far. It's Lamar, it's Allen, it's Hurts, and then it's Mahomes. So it's like he's right up there with the upper echelon for fantasy production. 53 rushing attempts. To put that in perspective, Lamar Jackson has 37 so far in the season. So he certainly has a ceiling, this kid. He's done great too. When Miles Sanders had a big game last week, if the game shakes out right and he's the one getting in there in the end zone, and this game pops off, he could just absolutely break the slate. Tom Brady is cheap, right? Tom Brady also has all his weapons, most of his weapons back. He's got Godwin back, which is huge. And the thing about Godwin is that he was out. Not only is he cheap, I mean, he's a great play. He is. I don't care if he's chalk or not. He played 83% of the snaps in his first game back, had a 19% target share. It was like he was right back thrown into the wolves. You know what I mean? It wasn't like let's ease him into this offense. No, he was ready. So not only that, Julio played limited, and is also on the injury report still. I don't think it's anything new, but God, you don't know with him, but maybe he gets a little bit, more snaps in this one. But long story short is he's got his weapons, and they also, have now been using White in the backfield a little bit more. It's just like, and he looked really good. It's just like an extra weapon for Tom Brady. So, he's cheap. He could be great. And then for me, my guy today is going to be Trevor Lawrence. But that's kind of the pool for me. I'm not really venturing much further out. I know Geno Smith is getting some love in the blitz. I know Herbert should certainly be in contention here. And the last guy for me is who I've already said is my favorite stack. Is I'm going to be playing Kyler. Now it's an ownership play for sure for me. And I'm trying to be optimistic about, his path forward in this one. I get it. He could, I could absolutely break my remotes, throw things at the TV, say, why did I, I'll be saying Kyler sucks. He's too small, which I never like to do. I don't short shame, I'm not a short shamer whatsoever.
You're a heightist, man.
Yeah. Not at all. And then Kingsbury's a fish, I'll probably be tweeting that out at 5 o'clock, and as my money
25 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that they haven't scored in the first quarter this season, and they've been blown off the doors as far as the first half. And Philadelphia, the inverse, has been killing everybody in the first half, and they're just kind of chilling in the second half. If Ertz actually gets a full game somehow, he can go ballistic. He hasn't really had that basically all season long. Bobby, do you have a lean as far as Ertz versus Allen? Surely, thoughts as far as other guys that were thrown out there, Murray, Brady. Brady's pieces, he is getting the best ones are back. Brady, of course, is not going to play. We don't know about Gage. He's questionable right now. He popped up yesterday, which leads me to think he probably doesn't play, but he's not that important when Evans and Godwin are there anyway. Jones lurking, assuming he goes. We'll see. He's questionable as always. What do you have, Bobby? Is your pool set right now as far as your quarterbacks, or it's still kind of in flux?
My pool's set pretty much. If I had a lean versus Allen and Ertz, I think I'd lean Allen at the moment. I just think that, you could get the pushback from Kenny Pickett. Also, Allen does so much with his legs. I know Ertz does too, but the other side of that is the Arizona defense is just so bad. So you could be getting it done through the air and maybe doesn't get the rushing touchdown. Maybe it's Miles Sanders. Their defense is just atrocious. So I don't know. I think I just prefer Allen. But I'm pretty much similar to Kirky, where I'm playing Kyler. Going to be running him back with Goddard, Brown, the regulars in that situation, Devonta Smith. And the other quarterback that I'm interested in playing is Brady, because I usually don't play the chalk QB, but I feel like at this price tag, it's really tough to find people below him to beat him. And then up top, like you can just pair him with a lot of these guys that are attached to Ertz, attached to Allen, and try to gain leverage in that situation as well. I liked Kirk's call on Trevor Lawrence, and I don't even mind Davis Mills on the other side of that game, just because Kirk and Cooks are a very good secondary stack on the slate. You also have a condensed target share throughout in those offenses, so I think there's definitely interest there. That would pretty much be my take on quarterback.
The chat's talking about Wentz. I can't do that. I am going to play some McLaurin, but I just can't play Wentz. I'm not playing enough 150 lineups either. Is Wentz in your pool? Is he somebody that does anything for you?
So I talked to JSU last night. He was on Wentz. I don't know if I can really go there. I don't mind the secondary stack of like Henry, McLaurin, or Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas, guys like that. But I don't know if I can play Wentz. I get it though. That Tennessee secondary isn't the greatest, so it's an interesting spot to kind of play Wentz's pieces. It's just a matter of it's Carson Wentz, and that's the risk you're taking.
Yeah, I know, Kirkwood. You mentioned the blitz, and I respect Cardi's work. He got his money in yesterday or last week on Geno Smith, and people were clowning him all week, and Geno just crushed. He's doing it again with I think it's got Geno, but also like Andy Dalton at this point in 2022, man. Oh man, I don't know if I can do that one. He just screams quarterback manager for me, and I know he's super cheap. And I don't know what I'm going to do that salary necessarily. Is he doing anything for you, Dalton, Kirkwood, or is that just doesn't seem necessary? Is sort of my take. I get it math wise, I suppose.
No red rifle for your boy today.
Yeah.
I get it. It's Seattle. It's home. They're in the dome. Kamara's allegedly healthy. Olave has had a monster. He's got two really strong projection plays with him today, so it's going to make him better. I'd rather just take the pieces and move them to one of my lineups I like with the other quarterbacks I like, because I'm not going down. I'm not going down with Andy Dalton.
That's kind of where I'm at as well, too. If I could beat my Andy Dalton, so be it. Tip the cap and move on. And I have some of the pieces around him, and that's enough for me. I just can only get so much Dalton in my life. But we should move on and talk about running back. And you kind of brought this up, Bobby, as far as Jeff Wilson. Man, I'm sort of under the field on him right now, and he's one-dimensional. He can get siphoned at the goal line by Debo. He can get siphoned by Juszczyk. Like, we've seen that before, too. Doesn't really catch the football. There are guys around him, the New England guys on DK, Stevenson and Harris are right there, which I think I prefer over Wilson. That may be a mistake. We'll see. Kamara's really cheap. Cook's really cheap. You brought up Wilson, so I assume you have a take on him. I don't love Jeff Wilson chalk.
Yeah, I don't either. That's why I don't think he's going to come in as chalky, and I think he does have a ceiling game in him eventually. Like, he's kind of hitting around 12, 13, 14 points. I just don't know if, like, where I want to be on him. Currently, I'm under. I think there are good pivots. Debo's not going to be owned. He negatively correlates with Wilson. And also, I like Ayuk, but I really like Kittle. Because Kittle's giving you a ceiling at tight end where no one's going to play Kittle. He ran as many routes. Everyone's saying he's like this. There's this narrative on Twitter that he's like a blocking tight end. And last week he ran as many routes as pretty much anyone that he's ever done in his career. So if you get that ceiling with Kittle, I don't know if it's near the goal line, it's taking away from Wilson. He's right in that. He's a little bit cheaper, so I think he has a higher ceiling than Wilson isn't going to be owned.
Your thoughts here, Kirkwood, as far as Wilson, is he cracking your main lineup? Do you know just yet? You're still kind of piecing that together. Do you like the guys around him? By the way, you mentioned Debo. He's going to be popular in FanDuel. So it depends on where you're shopping, because Debo's got a really nice price over there at 7.3K. Just tougher as far as the build on DK. He won't be nearly as popular. But FanDuel, Debo's going to be about 20% or so. Kirkwood, what do you think as far as running backs? You kind of went to the mid-tier right from the start, but I think that's where some of the ownership is condensing. And you got Stevenson and Harris and Breece Hall. They're all basically the same price, and they're all going to get somewhere in the teens as far as ownership. And, Wilson right there on 20% on DK. Yeah, your take as far as there. And then we'll kind of jump above that in a second. But as far as the mid-tier running backs, where are you at?
I think he's fine, but I'm fading him in tournaments today. I just don't want a guy who doesn't get utilized in the passing game much. And there's just a lot of ways it can go bad. Now it's not like he has like the craziest amount of snaps. His snap shares are 73%, 66%. It's a good system he's in. It's a good position he's in. He's on the league's fourth most run heavy offense. So that's obviously a plus for him. Carolina's been decent, 10th in DVOA versus the rush, but they've given up a lot of rushing yards per game. They're 7th in most rushing yards per game to running backs. It's going to come down to whether he gets in the end zone, but there's a lot of other ways for San Fran to score here, right? There's Debo, who's just ridiculous, especially after the catch. There, he could also siphon away, depending on game script, how much they'll use him for running back carries, but certainly could troll Wilson and take a touchdown away from him. There's Kittle, there's Ayuk. And Carolina kind of plays these gross games, right? Like, yeah. And so I'm fading him. I mean, I'm a New England homer, but, I cannot fade Ramondre Stevenson or Damian Harris today. I'm playing them both, like in a lot of tournament lineups.
Same lineups?
Yeah, with the Pats D. Well, I'm like, because I'm expecting like 240 rushing yards, multiple TDs to be between these two guys. I just don't know who it is. You know, I mean, we never know who it is. You get a little bit extra passing work with Ramondre. Ramondre to me is more electric, is the better back, but you know, they still use Harris. So I'm going to be playing these guys. Now, maybe that's stupid. Maybe, you know, it's all logic has said like we should be playing one or the other and hope to get it right, whatever, but just give me them both.
In smaller field stuff, correct? You're not talking about like large field.
I got it in the Wildcat like that.
I love it. I made a couple of shell lineups before the show, and I play mostly. I focus on like single entry, 3 entry, like the 5 entry, that kind of stuff. And I agree with you too. I was actually going to say, you know, I put out a tweet every single week. I'll go ahead and drop it in chat. If you respond to it with the boldest, most accurate take, you get yourself 1 month free of RotoGrinders Premium. Let me drop this in chat for the people. Respond to it on the tweet. Don't respond to it in chat. I won't see it, or like if I'll see it in chat, then I'll forget about it. But if you are the winner, you'll get yourself 1 month free of RG Premium. You see all the stuff that producer Steve is showing off, and all the sports too. Basketball's right around the corner. You get yourself some basketball, baseball playoffs, everything with the exception of NASCAR. But my bold call was going to be, Kirkwood, that both New England running backs run for over 100 and both score a touchdown. I don't know if that's bold enough or not, but I think they're both going to get there because they're just going to – Zappy's not throwing the ball a ton, right? And Detroit is outmatched as far as their defensive line, and they're just going to run it right down their throats. And they run it 45 times combined. Who knows? Ideally, that's probably what Belichick wants to do. But jump in here, Bobby, your thoughts. You guys are New England boys, so if you're just going to take one, who do you prefer? And it is worth noting, same price on DK essentially on FanDuel. If you want to get a little squirrely, like Harris is overpriced. He's over $7K and Stevenson's $6K, so the ownership will reflect that. Do you have a preference amongst those two?
Yeah, it's tight. I think I prefer Harris just because I feel like he can fall in the box twice. I don't think they're going to pass as much, so it kind of limits the – like, obviously, Ramondre would have the higher floor, but I don't know. It just depends where you think this game script's going. I think that, like, running it back isn't the worst idea. Amon's just ruled in. People aren't going to play Hawkinson. I know Amon takes away from Hawkinson, but the Patriots cannot cover tight ends. And another good play, I think, in this game, even though it looks disgusting when you look at the price, I think Jamal Williams is the type of back. I know he ran super efficient last week.
Yeah.
But just from watching this Patriots team for, like, my entire life, he's the type of back that can give us issues. So at 6,500, people aren't going to go there. I don't know if you want to pair him with the running backs. Maybe you pair him with Stevenson you can get away with, I guess. But I try not to do that in large field tournaments. But, yeah, I think he's more in play than what his ownership is reflecting.
And how high is Hunter Henry on your list as far as cheapies? Can he possibly get there? He's 2.9. That's the reason why I think he's kind of worth a look.
Absolutely can get there.
Okay, so yeah, he's
great tournament play today to me. I think even it could bust, right? But all these guys could bust.
Yeah,
it's direct leverage off of Otten, and I think he's a great play because with Smith out.
We got Jeff in chat who's he's got a season long question, but he's 1-3 and he's like pick 3 of these receivers. How are you 1-3 when your receiving core is CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Godwin, Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk? That's awesome receivers.
It's a 10-man league.
Yeah, how big is this league? It's like the league was like
8-man league.
What's
you play CeeDee, you play Brown, and you play Godwin. What I don't know, man. Kirk's really good too. I
would definitely play Kirk, Godwin, and Brown.
And no CeeDee.
Kirk and Godwin are the cash game receivers on DK today, correct, Dean?
Say it again.
Kirk and Godwin will be on the cash game build and the secret cash game team. And
I'm not in the secret chat, but I feel like Debo is going to be on it. Debo is like 7.3K over there. Really good chance he's on that the FanDuel lineup.
But on DK,
if you want to save some salary, Godwin is 7K over there. On DK, Godwin for sure. Yeah, definitely Godwin. Lockett, Olave. That's kind of what's showing up there on DK as far as your cash game stuff. And that's why the mid-tier is just getting hammered. And guys like, Cup, Even Diggs is probably not going to be in your DK cash lineup. Most likely not. If you get there, great, like awesome. But I don't think people are going to be forcing it.
He was saying running backs, though, right? Bobby, is that what you were saying?
What was it? You say running backs or receiver?
No, I was saying for receiver, I was wondering if it was going to be, because I think it's the build I was looking at was like Kirk, Godwin, and Lockett. Olave didn't make it for whatever reason. But
so who are your cash running backs? Wilson, Fournette, Kamara?
Yeah, it's just Wilson, Fournette, Kamara. We can't give away the whole team. Isn't that the rule or something?
Give it all. I don't play cash. Screw
it. Yeah, I mean, Kamara is just cheap enough, right? Where he's cheap on both sides. And I know he's been dealing with this rib. You know, I assume if he's going to play, I assume he's fine. The matchup against Seattle in the Dome, no Michael Thomas. You got to figure some touches will be shuffled his way. The Fournette one is kind of interesting. I heard you guys talking about it on your podcast, Kirkwood, and he had an incredible usage as is, so he had some stuff to give away. But you kind of was mentioned on the show about White creeping in and taking some of those touches away, but still feel pretty good about Fournette. Better play on DK than he is on FanDuel, just the way the build works and the kind of player he is. But do you have any apprehension as far as playing him?
I have major apprehension. I feel like I'm the only one who has this apprehension.
I have a little bit.
Everywhere I've listened to around the industry, everyone's like, such a secure role, such a huge role, right? And like, okay, he got 3 rushing attempts last week, right? I get it. It's like results oriented, and they didn't start using White till the second half, really. But you know what? White looked amazing. He looked really good. And then JSU was talking about how, they probably want to keep him healthy, Fournette, obviously. And then not only that, you've got Tom Brady with an offense that's getting healthier, where it's Godwin's. He now has all these legitimate options. Obviously, Lenny can go off. He could be used in the passing game huge, like it's happened before. Brady loves to utilize his running backs. But there's also inherent risk here, and he's chalk, right? Like, I don't know what the snap percentage is going to be. I don't know if White has earned a bigger role, but he looked like he earned a bigger role to me.
Is he a good blocker? Because I feel like that matters for Brady back there. And I'm not the kind of person, I don't have the PFF memorized.
Well, his hand size is.
I would imagine so, because he's moved up in terms of his overall usage. So I don't think they'd have him on the field as much as they have the previous weeks if he wasn't able to. Behind that offensive line, mind you, that's super banged up. So he must be doing something right in the blocking game.
They were getting blown out, right? The game looks more close than it actually was, 41-31, but I think it was a bigger blowout than that, correct?
Yeah, so it's true. Like, he came in the second, like, when the game was looking to be out of hand, but he kind of got them back in it for a bit. But I just don't know. I just think there's a lot of uncertainty here.
I agree. I'm fine playing Fournette, but I don't think he's the lock of locks. And I think White probably earned himself some playing time. 38% as far as a snap count last week, 9% before that, 13 before that. And Fournette was down to 61, which, by the way, 61 is like fine too. Obviously, it's not what it was, 76, 87, 91. But like 61 is not what you're necessarily paying for. Life is about expectations. 61% for most running backs is fine, but when you're paying for Fournette, you expect a little bit more, and he hasn't ran great either. How about the expensive ones? Bobby, they're going to be kind of ignored as a collective. CMC, we haven't seen a breakout game, but at least we saw a bunch of catches last week, which is nice. He's attached to the stench of Baker Mayfield. Henry, haven't really seen that breakout game. We saw from Chubb, that happened for sure, but he's got one route to get there. He's got to break off a big run, get in the box 3 times, which he did last time, doesn't really catch the ball. Eckler, saw breakout last week. Dalvin Cook is just too cheap on both sides. 7.3 on DK seems too cheap. I think he's $7K or so on FanDuel. Whatever it is, it's too cheap over there. He's like basically the best play over there in FanDuel as far as cash. Who's your favorites amongst that grouping?
Yeah, CMC and Henry probably. I think, like I said at the beginning, I think this is a slate where you're paying up for these studs to differentiate the construction. CMC's like due to break out. People saw this 49ers defense on an island game too, do absolutely amazing versus the Rams. So I think they might be hesitant to just get to CMC. If he's going to be under 5%, I'm going to be overweight. Henry's in a really good spot. He's seeing a lot more targets now with basically the injury riddled secondary that they have, and they're trying to utilize him like in the passing game when they're actually trying to get him the ball, which is nice. So I don't mind him. I think he's a good run back with, I think one of the narratives like him and McLaurin or him and Curtis Samuel or him and Logan Thomas as a secondary. But yeah, McCaffrey, I like as a secondary with like Kittle or Debo or Ayuk. I think they offer you also by rostering McCaffrey, you have late swap equity, or if you're running like a secondary in that game. So that's how you can kind of, if something busts early, you can get off and make decisions from there.
Yeah, not a great slate for that, right? 9 games early, 3 late. The premier game, I suppose, is Philadelphia, Arizona. So, I guess if you're doing well, if you don't have Philadelphia pieces, you shuffle on to Philadelphia, I suppose. If that's something you want to do. How often do you do that, Bobby, as far as depending on what you're doing at like 3:30? And you go through your lineups and you see like, okay, this one I hit on this reach, and now I have to play it safer, you know what I mean? Or you just keep going and use whatever it is, it is.
So I do it a lot. One of the things that's kind of hindered that process is having a 4-month-old pretty much. It hasn't been as great this year, but it's definitely something I implement from week to week previously. I've been doing it somewhat this year, but
easier for you, Kirkwood, right? When you have one lineup.
Well, I don't. Well, if I did have one lineup, yes. But when I multi-enter and I look at like the best lineups, and I will make changes to my best lineup because sometimes it'll be like awesome, and it doesn't. Then it has like this crazy later piece when I can just move to like the good chalk piece, and because I've already hit everything, and vice versa. But I don't. I try. It gets tedious, like all your bad lineups doing. I mean, I wasted a lot of EV not going through.
You get sick. You're just like, I don't want to look at this anymore.
It's like, I'm watching football. Leave me alone. It's like.
Gage expected to play. Julio Jones expected not to play.
Julio's out.
We'll see that in 20. Well, no, we'll see at 11:30. The actives and inactives will come out. Eric will talk about it with Tim as well. What's your official, big spend running back? I don't think there's really anybody below like 5K that's worth talking about. If you want to talk about him, by all means, there's no, like we saw, what's his name on for Seattle last week was 4.9. There's nothing like that lurking out there. But you have a big spend that you prefer, Kirkwood. We got to move on and talk about receivers.
Yeah, I've got one that I love, like absolutely love. And he potential to break the slate for under 5% ownership, and probably the best pure running back in the game, and that's Nick Chubb. 8,200. It's tough, right? But it's a good matchup. They're favored. He's the guy you take. He doesn't project well because he's in a split backfield, and he doesn't get a ton of passing work. But when he goes off, he breaks slates. And so like it's kind of like Derrick Henry, but like he's way out of favor behind Henry today, right? People are already talking about Henry. Henry's going to get double the ownership of Chubb. So in a game that I like too, the Chargers, Cleveland, which should play at a nice pace here today. Give me Nick Chubb as a home favorite in a good matchup. They're 18th in DVOA versus the run for like 5% ownership. Hell yeah.
Henry projected for 7% on DK, 4% for Chubb. They're both going to be off the board, and at least it's nice that Tennessee's manufacturing catches for Henry. We haven't seen it in a while. Back-to-back game, I think was with 5 targets, 5 looks. And why wouldn't you when your receiving core is completely horrendous and they lost their rookie as well? They have Woods, who's like a solid veteran. Besides that, it's pretty rough there on the Tennessee side. By the way, Logan Thomas is not going to play. Washington was already without Dotson, so no Logan Thomas. Targets are going to condense on McLaurin and Samuel.
Samuel is going to get a ton of work today.
He's so not sexy, but like 7 and 70, like 7 for 70, maybe he falls in the end zone. Is that what we're talking about?
I mean, I think he's just going to get. They're going to do a ton of stuff with him. I think they're going to do runs with him. I think he's going to get over 10 touches in this game. But that's just me being optimistic.
Does John Bates enter the conversation at 2.6K as far as the horrendous cheap punt tight ends? He's 2.6. We talked about Henry briefly at 2.9. Tampa Bay, we're gonna have Cade Otton, who is confirmed a person. He's 2.5K as well. It's probably Otton. Well, I don't know. I mean, do you have a lean on this, Bobby? I think it's Otton, Henry, and then Bates in that order, but I don't feel spectacular. I think Bates pretty solidly is third, I think. But this is just a nonsense conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of Otton today.
Okay.
I think it's a way to kind of – obviously he's going to be chalky, but he's detached to Brady. He's 10% owned we're looking at pretty much. So I don't mind Cade. We know how Brady likes to utilize the tight end. I was watching some college highlights from him too. He runs a lot of seam stuff. So I think that's interesting. 6'5", he's good height on him. I don't mind playing some Cade Otton.
He went to Washington. All right. Wasn't
all right. Can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
On some of those Otton teams, transfer a little over that to OJ Howard.
I'm playing OJ Howard too.
Okay, good. I mean,
They're
with Brevin Jordan now, Aikens got, and they just got rid of Pharaoh Brown. I mean, it is the OJ Howard at tight end show.
Have they upped his routes? Is he running more routes lately?
He ran more last week. Yeah, they didn't have anyone. He had to. He was on the field pretty much.
Okay.
This is a game I love, and he's 2,600.
Like it's all kind of says, and we'll talk about tight end in a second, but like punt tight end again. The situation, everybody's floor is rough. You might as well just save some salary, hold your nose, and hopefully you hit. And when we talk about Higbee soon enough, and Higbee's like super chalky, and for cash games, you're probably going to be playing Higbee on DK and probably on FanDuel too, actually, who's fine. But this isn't like a Hawkinson, last man standing situation in Detroit, and he kind of sort of has to get a bunch of stuff thrown his way. Higbee can certainly fail, or he can go 5 catches for 50 yards and no touchdowns and whatever. Like you're perfectly fine missing that. You know what? Let's knock out tight ends real quick, and then we'll jump to the receivers to close it out. Again, because we're always kind of up against it as far as the clock. But Bobby, you were talking about Otton. I'll talk about other receivers. Talk about Chalk Higbee. How do you feel about that? It sounds like you're going to be under the field on it at least.
Yeah, I'm going to be under the field on Higbee if I'm playing him. Like I'm playing him in Stafford stacks, but I think I've kind of moved away from Stafford. Yeah, I like Goddard and Ertz. I think they're interesting. I think double tight ends definitely in play this week for what it's worth. Irv Smith's another good play. Kirky hit on OJ Howard. Dalton Schultz is someone I like. I do like Kittle a ton, though. Kittle has a ceiling that I don't think a lot of these guys can really compete with if he goes off and no one's going to play him.
I can't imagine playing 2 of these tight ends.
I'm not spending up for like 2 amazing receivers. I mean, they're good, right? Like I guess my question is like, what are you doing with that salary if you're doing double tight end? Like obviously you're spending up on.
I'm getting up, yeah. First of all, I think it would be like
Diggs,
it would be
Josh
specific,
Allen.
like who I'm going to be playing double tight ends with, like Otton and Goddard or Otton and Kittle, like guys with actual ceilings. I'm not gonna like. I don't know. I think Freiermuth's definitely in play too. I'm not going to be crazy on double tights, but I think it's an interesting construction.
You could argue like Goddard's 4.7 on DK, and you could argue he's better than every other receiver at 4.7.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the issue. That's the guy that I think's fine to play in the flex.
I like Goddard a lot.
We got a revenge game on the other side of that, right? As far as Zach Ertz versus Philadelphia. He's very angry at Philadelphia. But we'll see.
I think Ertz is fine too, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, I think he's fine as a run back. Yeah, I don't mind that. Kirkwood, you're talking about playing Arizona. You talk about Moore at 4. Are you double stacking Kyler? Who's your favorite target to pair with Kyler?
My lineup, I got Moore and Hollywood. Skipped out on Ertz. And then I think I have Goddard and Devonta Smith is the way I'm going, even though I love A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is like the best matchup this week in general out of like everybody per PFF. But regarding Goddard's going to smash. Arizona's second worst in fantasy points on the tight end. He leads the league in yards after the catch amongst all these bozos. He's got the according to Pro Football Focus, he's got the 4th best matchup for tight ends this week. So, Goddard has like the actual ceiling here. He was going to smash a couple of weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago, but or maybe it was last week. He did it last week, the week before, and he got hurt. but he was off to a massive start. So yeah, give me him. I like Hawkinson too. I don't care. New England is just bad. They've given up the most touchdowns to tight ends. Their defense has just been bad against tight ends so far. Hawkinson's still, Amon-Ra's back, but how healthy is he? I don't know. Certainly Hawkinson could have a good game. And then other than that, I just like the dumpster diving I was doing. Like I said, like I was like OJ Howard. I just don't want to play Cade Otton. So that's what's driving me to like guys like OJ. I'm like, give me OJ Howard over Cade Otton.
You don't want to play OJ Howard either, though. To be fair, I don't think.
But I'm like, if people really want me to click on Otton, I might as well just click on OJ Howard instead. Yeah, I think he's extremely live for a touchdown in this game.
Did get 5 targets last game. So like you're talking about, speaking to the routes. I know he scored those 2 touchdowns start of the season, but that was like totally fluky on like 6 or 7 or 8 routes or something like that. Kirkwood, if you can do it quickly, how are you attacking receivers? Give me a couple of your favorites. And like, again, we can't hit everything. We got Erik and Tim behind us, and then we have the Crunch Time crew behind us. They're going to answer all your questions in chat. Do their best to answer your questions in chat when they come in at 12:30. But, a couple of receivers you're focusing on before we step aside. And also, I think you kind of let it out the bag, but your favorite single entry stack, who would that be?
Okay, so as far as receiver goes, I get Chris Godwin. I like Chris Godwin. I'm going to play a lot of Chris Godwin. But, man, makes me want to just do a single with Mike Evans and like take the alpha in this group when Godwin's and I love Christian Kirk. I love that game, Jacksonville Houston. I think it's going to pop off. That's my bet for the game that goes off that everyone's going to want to have Gabe and stacked. I like Diggs. Who doesn't? I'm more on a fade on like Lockett and Olave. I think they're fine. I'm just trying to beat them. I like for cheap, I like Rondale Moore. I like Zay Jones. AJ Brown is great. I like Devonta Smith too a lot. Those are kind of my guys this week that I moved around. And I've got Hollywood in my Kyler in my double stack Kyler and Rondale Moore.
Yeah, man. You got a martingale. Eventually, it's going to get there in theory, right? It feels like that it's live. I think it's live. Should be playing from behind and chucking it, and we'll see. And you love the Philadelphia runbacks as well. But what are your thoughts here, Bobby, as far as some key receivers that you should focus on? Some that you're over the weight on, over the field on when it comes to ownership.
Yeah, I think me and Kirk are pretty much in lockstep on a lot of situations. Kirk and Cooks, I like a ton. Paying up at receiver just to like get to Cooper Kupp. I think you do that with these cheap tight ends or Justin Jefferson for that matter. And then the minis with Marquise and Brown, I think they're in my like little core on the RG side. Devonta Smith's a really good play. Where else am I going at tight end? I don't mind like Gabe Davis. I think this is going to be like the Gabe Davis week for what it's worth. I think they're going to try their best to get him going. So he's going to be someone I target. Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins, I think are guys that are in that high total game. It'll go under the radar and they're good plays. Kirky hit on Evans as a pivot off Godwin. I'm going to have a lot of Godwin. I just feel like the spot's like almost too good to be true.
It's good chalk.
I think he's a fantastic chalk, but I just think there's this like little inkling of like this is too easy. You get what I'm saying? That's like a feeling I have for whatever reason. But I'm going to have a lot of him. Yeah, that's pretty much it at receiver.
Oh, I didn't talk about Waddle and Tyreek. I mean, and you can play Teddy B.
We're already beyond our allotted time, but go for it.
Yeah, I mean the 2 best yard after the catch receivers in football.
We're assuming both play, right?
Yeah, and I think we got word that I think they're both playing. But I mean, obviously you can play these guys against the Jets. We can roster head chopper comfortably against the Jets.
By the way, Akins is likely to play. Brevin
Jordan. Yeah, I wrote that in there. I was thinking Brown in my head when I.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I saw a couple people in the chat asking about it, and I wanted to double check. And
he got 35%. I mean, Howard doubled them in snaps last week.
Bobby, what's your favorite stack? Favorite game stack? Favorite like just quarterback, receiver, whatever you want to go. However you want to answer that question.
I like Brady. It's easy to say, like, it's the cash QB. Everyone's going to play him. I think that you can play him differently so you can differentiate how much ownership you're taking on. If you want to play someone with less ownership, I think Kirkwood's on the same page as me with this as Kyler.
Your favorite run back on Pittsburgh?
On Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Pickens or Fireman?
Yeah, I should have asked Atlanta. Is it London?
I think it's Algier for me. I don't know if I'm going to have as much London. I know that it's super condensed, but they can just throw 15 people on him. And, Algier's at 4,700. And I think that the low in terms that I feel like where Drake London's price, he's just going to be the run back. I don't think you need a run back in Brady stacks, to be perfectly honest. I think that's one of the better ways to differentiate it.
I should have mentioned Algier and running backs under 5K. It's the big question mark. You have no idea what's going to happen there. And it doesn't seem like a great matchup. And Huntley's there as well. The absence of Patterson, of course, the absence of Pitts. Maybe this offense just collapses altogether. There are 10-point dogs there for a reason. Kirkwood, we are up against the clock. We have to yield to Erik and Tim in just a second. No reason to go anywhere. Of course, this stream takes you guys all the way up the lock. Do appreciate y'all hanging with us. Kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. Obviously, basketball right around the corner, like 10 days away. Kirkwood, close strong. Give me a name that Bobby, we didn't give you a defense. Do you have a defense on the ready or no?
Yeah, I'm going back to Seattle a little bit. Don't mind the Patriots. I think they're interesting as pivots off this Cowboys chalk. I'm going to be playing some Cowboys. I don't know in terms of how much exposure I'm going to have, but I think I might have some. I think I'll probably be at the field or maybe a little over.
Cowboys probably the most heavily owned defense on DK just because of the price, and they can put some pressure on the quarterback, right? Get some sacks at least.
Dolphins are interesting too.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah, all right, Kirkwood, we got to go. But what was the question I was asking you before I kind of?
I got it. I got it closing it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay.
My two favorite stacks, Kyler on the other on the side of the Arizona Philly game. Play it to double it with Rondell and Hollywood. Bring it back with Goddard and AJ Brown or Goddard and Devontae. I love this Houston. Get crazy with this Houston Jags game. Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence to Kirk. And with Brandon Cooks, with Pierce, start playing with this Zay Jones, and then finally the thing that I'm going out hot is what I said all show is that these New England running backs are going to smash both of them today. So I'm playing both, which is something I would never do normally. I'm playing both New England running backs with the Patriots defense today in a lot of my lineups.
So am I. I can't believe we're doing the same thing. That's so funny. We didn't talk about it, and I got him ahead of Breece Hall. Like that basically. Like I like Hall too. He's fine.
I like Hall too. Yeah.
Yeah. I like Hall, but they're all kind of the same price. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna get them both, and I think they both get there. It hurts the ceiling to some degree, but whatever. All right, we got to step aside. Erik and Tim are on layaway. They're jumping in just a second. Do appreciate y'all watching. Again, taking y'all straight up the lock. Your questions will be answered in crunch time in about an hour or so. So do feel free to hang in there if you're in chat. That was Bobby. That was Kirkwood. I was Dean. Go out there and win something today. We're stepping aside. We're out of here. Oh.
We're here back at the Fantasy Bar with your pints and picks for Week 5, presented by BetMGM. Use promo code GRINDERS, risk-free bet up to $1,000. Now sit back, grab your favorite pint while I'll give you my favorite picks for Week 5. All right, before we get into the picks, clean sweep last week gave you the over in that Jacksonville-Philly game, and the Kansas City Chiefs with an easy win. Let's keep it rolling here. This week, first pick, we're rolling New England Patriots -3.5 against the Lions. Now we get the Matt Patricia ball here with New England and the Lions. The Lions been a covering machine, no doubt, but New England has covered 17 of the last 22 at home against a team with a losing record. No DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown practicing as of this recording. You got to think New England going to go the very run-heavy approach here with a rookie quarterback taking snaps there. And what a defense to run against here. New England should be able to dominate on the ground. The defense should be able to limit this offense. 45% of the bets coming in on New England, but a whopping 82% of the money. I'm with the money here. Roll with New England -3.5. All right, next game we're rolling with a home dog here. We're rolling Cleveland Browns +2.5. Now you can certainly grab the money line here as well, sitting at +110 at BetMGM. I'm going to take the 2.5 points here. Even if they lose like they tend to do, a close game, we're still covering with those points. But Chargers traveling west to east here, 1 o'clock game. The underdog has covered 7 of the last 8 in this matchup between these two teams. We know what Cleveland loves to do. They love to run the ball. Chargers, 4th most fantasy points allowed to the running back position. This team could easily be 4-0, and then they're probably home favorites here. Take advantage. Take it Cleveland with the points at home against the Chargers. All right, that'll do it for week 5 for the Pints and Picks. Again, promo code Grinders over at BetMGM. For RotoGrinders.com, for ScoresAndOdds.com, and for BetMGM, I am Beer saying salut. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck with your bets this week, and we'll catch you next week.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to GPP Final Takes here at RotoGrinders.com. Week 5. I am your host, Erik Beimfohr. You can find me on Twitter at ErikBeimfohr, and I am joined this week again by Tim. And so a little to see how the sausage gets made. I'm a stickler for making sure I pronounce people's names right, and I had to make sure and ping Tim behind the scenes to make sure I was saying his name correctly. Tim Buell, correct? Is that okay?
That is correct. Very good.
I know people, like most people do in this space, by their usernames, their handles. TastefulTides, of course, is here with me. I'm excited to break down this slate, Tim, because we have reached the point of the season where normally this is like a week 12 type of a thing, where there's chaos and injuries all over the place, and maybe some value, not necessarily value in terms of like 3K punts on DraftKings or super cheap guys on FanDuel, but just kind of a lot of really strong plays. And the field is still going to kind of gravitate to a lot of the same things. And so I really like these slates where it's really easy to get, contrarian with a $6,500 player that is a really good football player in a good matchup, but nobody is playing. So excited to break this one down. How are you feeling about week 5?
Yeah, I've never seen like this much of a loaded mid-range. Like
it's crazy.
It's absolutely loaded. Like the 65 to 5,500 price range on DK today is absolutely loaded, and it's so easy, like you said, to get different, but in the same kind of lineup construction, like same kind of balanced build. So you don't necessarily, like if you're playing single entries, you don't have to go completely insane, but there are great ways to get some leverage on the field.
Definitely. And that's what we'll probably spend a lot of the time talking about here today. And as the injury, the actives, inactives and stuff start to roll in, if anybody, feel free to post them in the chat. We'll try to hit on them as much as we can. We'll try to cover your questions and everything in the chat as much as possible, because that's what we're here for. You want to hear our opinions, but we want to make sure we're directly answering your questions. Before we get in, I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of ScoresAndOdds.com, our sports betting partner. If you're betting anything today, there is a ton of awesome content and picks on Scores and Odds right now. I haven't put my picks in yet for this week. Maybe we'll tease a couple of them here during the show, but tons of super sharp guys. A lot of the RotoGrinders people that have picks out there. We also have a new tool called Parlay IQ that everybody needs to check out. If you're building parlays, same game parlays, everything, this tool has kind of changed the game in terms of how you put together, the most optimal plus EV parlays. So go to scoresandodds.com and check that out. Now, so I'm also, because Tim, of what you outlined, what we talked about here at the top, I'm struggling to figure out where is like the starting point for you on this slate. Normally it's like, right, Dalvin Cook is out, Alexander Madison is 6,000 and he's monster chalk. Everybody's playing him. We got to start there. Or there's a game, right? There's Bills Ravens or whatever. I'm struggling a little bit with where is that? Like, where do you start building your lineups? Where do you start assessing the slate today?
I started with the Buccaneers Falcons game just because the Buccaneers are so cheap, right? And they're in such a good spot. That's kind of where I started. That doesn't necessarily mean that like that's going to be. I mean, they are going to be chalky. I'm not saying that you have to play them, but I think that that's like the most kind of polarizing spot where you have to make a decision. What do you want to play this super chalky Chris Godwin at 5,900 or Tom Brady at 6K? Cade Otton at the Stone Min, is he going to be a good player or not? Is it worth going down instead of playing guys like Tyler Higbee, something like that? So I think a lot of your decisions are based off of the Buccaneers offense.
So let's talk about the Bucs then a little bit, because I agree with you. I think that's probably the central point. But there's a couple of things that are interesting as it relates to the Bucs, being that's normally that central point of a decision is, right, like, can I jam Cooper Kupp? Am I jamming the Bills stack in a great spot? Am I jamming that backup running back that is not right? Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison, Darrell Henderson, whoever who has been thrust into a bigger role. The Bucs, I don't really have anything super negative to say about the Bucs in this spot. They all project awesome. I think that they're going to have a good game, but Julio is out. Obviously, Cam Brate is out. There are a lot of guys to play. Not every Bucs player can be super popular in tournaments, right? And so you have the fact where there's Mike Evans. I think it's probably Evans, Godwin, Fournette, Otton, Russell Gage being a very distant kind of whatever that is, fifth option in tournaments. And then obviously Brady at 6,000. Like, I feel like it was a social experiment DraftKings was pulling with Tom Brady at 6,000. Like, that was a very steep drop very quickly on, the best quarterback of all time. But you have a lot of options to pick from. And so that makes it interesting. But you also have the situation where, look, I'm certainly not scared of the Falcons defense with the Buccaneers. I don't think anybody should be. But the Falcons defense has not been horrible. Like, it hasn't been great, but they're not just like going out there like Seattle getting lit up like a Christmas tree every week. And the Bucs have been really bad. Now they're healthy, right? So that's the storyline. Everybody's saying everybody's back healthy. Evans is not suspended, whatever. And I agree with that. But this is still a bad offensive line, a above average offense. I'm not sure it's a super elite offense anymore. So I think there are a couple of reasons to maybe be concerned, right? Maybe it ends up they all score 16 fantasy points, and who cares about those guys in tournaments? Or maybe the Bucs are just not quite as good as we thought. And so what do you kind of think about maybe some of the counterpoints to the Bucs chalk today?
Well, I think the biggest counterpoint really in terms of what we need to talk about is ownership. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like, you could sit here and be like, oh, are they getting older? Are they not as efficient as they used to be? We know that Tom Brady doesn't run he has no rushing upside, and we love rushing upside quarterbacks now. It's a different world for DFS. And of course, I think we need to talk about do we run anything back with the Falcons, or does this team completely kind of just get destroyed and Lenny Fournette has 2 rushing touchdowns, and then Rashad White snipes one from him, and they win the game, 28-0 or something like that, And it's really not that much of a ceiling performance from any of these Bucs. Like you said, they could all get 16 points, right? And we know that Tom Brady likes to spread the ball around. The biggest issue I'm having, and just, being fully transparent, I am playing Chris Godwin today on both FanDuel and DraftKings in my single entry team, just because that price is just so cheap.
It's crazy.
And, and he wasn't reduced at all in his first game back. So he's, he played, extremely high percentage of snaps last week. And I just can't get away. I can understand if you don't want to play like $3 or $4, but I mean, I am pairing Brady with Godwin today. At least on DK. And it's because they're just so cheap that it allows you to, you can take your lineup anywhere else after that. You can pay up at running back. You can pay for the loaded mid-range at running back and go up at receiver or whatever you want after that, because it's just so cheap.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of reasons to play the Bucs, in particular Brady, Godwin, and probably Lenny. I'll toss Lenny into there. Evans is so, but I do think Evans makes for an interesting kind of quasi leverage play. I don't think he's going to be, 2%, it's not some mega leverage, but with K. Dotton opening up without Cam Brate as a punt tight end, and with Brady, particularly on DraftKings, being a, absurdly priced 6K quarterback, I think that there's a little bit of leverage in Evans. So again, I'm not a 150 max player. I'm playing one team on DraftKings and one team on FanDuel, and I have not decided on it. That's what I'm here to get. Tim's going to help me finalize my team here today. But I think the ownership thing is the point for me, and we'll get into a lot over these last 45 minutes or whatever. There are so many other guys I also want to play. Like, I love Chris Godwin's probably, for anyone that doesn't know, like my favorite player in the NFL. My biggest GPP win was at the hands of Chris Godwin. Was like truly questionable. Do you remember the Rams Bucks game back when Jameis was on the Bucks a few years ago, and it was like 35-28 at halftime or something absurd. So anyway, Godwin goes nuts even though he's fully questionable. That feels like today, coming back off an ACL, 5,900, and just goes absolutely nuts against the Falcons. But like we said at the top, there's so many plays, particularly on DraftKings, between, like you said, that 5 and 7K range. That's where I struggle with ownership. So how are you thinking about when you're playing Brady and Godwin? How do you kind of start to maneuver your lineup there? Because if someone's watching, right, and they say, I'm just playing Brady and Godwin, they're going to smash. How do I then start to build a lineup around kind of the most popular stack?
Yeah, so the biggest reservation I have in terms of the Bucks is actually Lenny, because it feels like to me that there's so much opportunity cost in that same kind of price area in terms of running back. So I think that, and he's going to be the highest owned running back on DraftKings at 6,900. So I think the first thing that I would do is kind of maybe get off Lenny and just stack Brady and Godwin, and then play somebody different other than Lenny, and that automatically will bring down your aggregate ownership in single entry and large field GPPs.
I really like that. So let's I do have FanDuel up here, but if I go to running back and sort by, I think I need to refresh this and sort by ownership.
He's gonna be the highest owned on FanDuel also,
right? Because his price is
7,800 on FanDuel.
sub 8K, and running back is like become the new tight end in fantasy. It's like I don't want any of these guys. They all stink. No running backs are scoring. I'm exaggerating, but no running backs are scoring a ton of points. And again, you see Leonard Fournette here as the highest owned running back. So let's talk about running back then a little bit, and we'll get into there's a ton of not necessarily injury news. Oh geez, Saquon just went to the tent. Yeah, not great. So at running back, you have kind of a couple options that I do agree on both sides. Honestly, these guys stand out, that you'll see a smidge different ownership, but this being a GPP show and all, is there anybody kind of not popping at the top, say, of ownership that has really stuck out to you that, like, okay, I'm going to play Brady and Godwin, I'm going to fade Lenny, I don't necessarily want to play Dalvin. That's not real. You're not really gaining anything there. Is there somebody else or multiple other guys that have been sticking out to you, maybe a little bit lower down the totem pole?
Actually, currently I have Raheem Mostert. And yeah, I know it's kind of a weird play, but I mean, he's going to only be about 10% owned on DK. So that splits that high end ownership right in half. Like, I think Jeff Wilson's going to be super high owned, and I don't really like that game just from a pace perspective and an overall play perspective. Now, you could also say the same thing about the Dolphins Jets game, right? I mean, it is true, but it's also going to be half the ownership, and I really want exposure against this Jets team. I know that it's tough to project sometimes the role between Mostert and Edmonds. But I think that Mostert's starting to get the majority of the work. I think that this Dolphins team will move the ball pretty easily, and he'll get plenty of red zone work in this game. And he's about it's quite a bit of savings, right? He's only 5K. And then I want to hear your take on the Patriots running back situation.
Oh, boy.
That's another tough spot. And Stevenson he's only 6K on FanDuel. I think Harris is out of play on FanDuel at 7,200. That's just my take.
Mhm.
But on DK, they're both firmly in play, and I just wonder what you think on those two guys.
Gad, I was kind of hoping you would answer it before I had to answer it, because this honest to God, I think maybe even more than the Bucks, like from a tournament perspective. I understand the Bucks are good plays, but that's an ownership type of thing. Like you said, we don't really need to get into, is this angry Tom Brady? Are they going to go nuts on the Falcons? I don't know. But the Patriots running back thing is like, if you told me there was one spot on this entire slate that is like a stone cold lock, someone is going to have like a really good game. Are one of them going to have a total tournament winning game? I don't know. That's never, that's a 1% outcome thing you're trying to predict. But like, honestly, I would expect both of them, Ramondre and Damien Harris, to have a good game today. But, I don't want to play both running backs from the same team in a lineup. And so I too am trying to make this decision. You mentioned your kind of full transparency with Godwin in your teams. Full transparency for me, I'm 100% on both sides playing a Patriots running back. I haven't yet totally figured out who that is, but I kind of like so Ramondre, I think, is going to be definitely, like you said, more popular on FanDuel. And I totally agree with, like, man, Damien Harris for 7,200 on FanDuel really doesn't feel very, very comfortable. But I think when you get into particularly like some smaller fields, Damien Harris has, in a split backfield before, had 100-yard, 3-touchdown games. And if you like dreamt up a spot for him to do it this year, it's probably this. Against the Lions, Mac Jones is officially out, so Bailey Zappi is playing today. They really didn't throw the ball with Zappi or Hoyer at all last week, and they should just absolutely dominate on the ground. And so this is my favorite like spot of the whole slate out of any, like a stack, anything. It's one of these two running backs. But I think Damien Harris is going to be the guy that gets overlooked, if you will, on both sites. And so I'm trying to see on FanDuel if I can make a team that I like with him over Ramondre. I will be happy to still play Ramondre either way, but I think I'm kind of prioritizing Damien Harris just a little bit because everybody sees the same thing. Ramondre's the pass catcher, right? He has a little, like, they're splitting the carries and Ramondre has the pass catching. But in any one game, if Damien Harris gets hot, right? These coaches do this stuff. Damien Harris gets hot, rips off a couple of long runs. Next thing you know, Ramondre gets 9 carries and Damien Harris gets 20. He is catching some balls. It's not going to be a total, he's not old school Derrick Henry he's not Jeff Wilson in the passing game. Right. They don't throw the ball to Jeff Wilson and everybody's happy to play him. Why can't we play Damien Harris, who's probably projects for the same workload as Jeff Wilson? So I kind of answered your question, but I just love this. I love this spot. No, go ahead. I love this spot. And I love Mostert too.
That's why I like Mostert, because I feel like he's going to be the same kind of play as Jeff Wilson. I mean, and he's going to be way lower owned. And I don't really like the idea of playing Jeff Wilson chalk today. That's just, no. I don't know if that's, I just don't like that game. I don't like that he can get sniped by Samuel. So it's just, I don't really like that game. I also want to hear your thoughts on paying up at running back. Like, Nick Chubb has the best matchup on the board. And obviously Chubb never projects well, ever, because he doesn't catch passes. But he gets he's got the best offensive line in football. They're a run-heavy team. He's got a massive ceiling. The Chargers are, not a very good rush defense at all. So I really like the idea of playing Nick Chubb on both sides today, just as a contrarian way to build a team.
I love it. I particularly love it on FanDuel just because of what you said. So 2 things. It's a little bit easier to kind of make Chubb work with still like kind of other superstars, if you will, around him on FanDuel. That's just kind of how it works, right? You'll find the Godwins of the world that are like, I know Godwin is cheap on DraftKings too, but you do run out of a little salary a little bit quicker on DraftKings, right? We're going to get to the quarterbacks and stack stuff. The reason why Brady is so crazy, like the price is so crazy, is because normally we got to do the, like, this week would be Trevor Lawrence, Carson Wentz, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota's. We usually got to do those kind of guys. Geno last week. to save money at quarterback off the elites. Now you're getting the best quarterback of all time against the Atlanta Falcons at 6,000 on draft or on FanDuel. It's like you don't like you can. Do you want to play Ertz or Josh Allen and play Nick Chubb and still get a bunch of good receivers and everything? You can absolutely do it on FanDuel. So I love Nick Chubb today, and this might be the only time I say that all season that like I love Nick Chubb because. Exactly what you said, dude. Did anyone see what Damian Pierce just did to this defense? I think the Chargers are also smart enough to know. Look, we're gonna play the Brandon Staley way. 2 high safeties, let them run the ball. He's not gonna all of a sudden, get into heavy personnel and try to stop the run. He's gonna do what he does, play the analytics game. We're gonna kind of let them run, and we're gonna throw the ball, and we're gonna let the kind of variance play out. And I just think Chubb is like a stone cold lock for a good game. And then you just need the touchdown variance. And there's not that many guys that are like a stone. Like we'll talk about some guys I really like say at wide receiver, or even like another similar option like Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry could come out here and score 7 fantasy points. And I really would not be surprised today. He has upside, but Chubb is just like, I don't know. I'm getting 15. It's like, right. Am I getting 30? Am I getting 30 or am I getting 15? But I'm getting 15. And so I just love that kind of play with the monster upside. The spot is great. The ownership is great. He's actually one of my favorite plays today.
Yeah, and the bringbacks in that game are super easy too. You could go Herbert, Eckler, Herbert, Mike Williams, something like that. Like the concentration of points on the other side are super easy to get to, and they're not going to be owned. So from a game stat perspective, and that game is going to be played at a super fast pace. So it's just I think that game is great for tournaments.
Definitely. Speaking of that game, okay, we'll hit some questions while we're kind of in between subjects. Maria says, can you power rank these wide receivers? This one's kind of easy for me, but I'm curious to hear your answer. So I'm going to kick it to you first. Josh Reynolds, Zay Jones, Nico Collins, and Khalil Shakir. If you're power ranking these guys for tournaments, right? So cost, ownership, all that stuff comes into play. How would you rank these guys?
Zay Jones, Shakir. Who were the other two?
Nico Collins and Josh Reynolds.
Collins.
Amon-Ra is active today. We did just get that news.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra is playing. I think I agree with it. You said Zay is a very clear number one. Is a very clear number one for me. More full. We're gonna by the end of this show, everyone's gonna know the team I'm playing on both sites. I think because I'm just gonna keep dropping it. Full disclosure, Zay is in my lineup. I'm a little bit of a Zay stan, so this is a smidge of bias, but I think he might be the best point per dollar play on the entire slate. Like from probably on the cheaper end. There are probably some other awesome like Godwin and stuff, but $2,000 cheaper, Zay Jones against the Texans. He's my favorite. If you read the expert survey here on RotoGrinders, he was my favorite kind of salary saver. I love Zay Jones today. So I think I agree with Tim on kind of the rest of this. I'm going to hit a couple more questions, and then we are going to talk about some stacks. We hit the running back position. Game Set Hook says, is it crazy to consider DPJ in that Browns Chargers game? He's you want to talk about high variance, maybe more of a large field play to me. I kind of prefer Chubb and Njoku Amari on the Brown side, maybe a sprinkle of Hunt. But what do you think about DPJ, as a flyer?
So I always get DPJ wrong. So I don't like him today. So take that for what it's worth. I don't know if you saw that Landry and McKenzie are out. Did you see that?
Yeah. So let's do that. Let's hit the injury stuff because it's a lot. There's like a lot. Let me hit some actives first. So Tyreek is in. Waddle is in. Zay is in. Amon-Ra is in. David Montgomery is in. Jacoby Myers, Josh Palmer in this Chargers game. These guys are all in. On the outside, you have, and I will say, I know this is not a skill player or whatever, but Teron Armstead for the Dolphins is playing. So that game, I think, if he was out, I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but you remove one of the best left tackles in that game, I think it could hurt. It could have hurt a little bit, especially without Tua. And I like Teddy fine, but anyway, then we have some players out in this week. Jameis, which I think most people expected, but so we're going to get Andy Dalton again for New Orleans. Oh, Kamara is also active. out this week. This is a long list. I apologize to everyone for me botching this. Jarvis Landry, like you said, is out. So Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry are out. So we're definitely going to have to talk about, in particular, two Saints, Chris Olave for sure. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. I think that was and McKenzie, you said. Yes. Isaiah McKenzie is out. So that question with Shakir is a lot more interesting now. Julio is out also. Sorry. Julio is out. Gage
is in.
Engage is in. This is an absolute shit show. Trying to go through all this as you see the projections here update on your screen, because we're also in real time updating these things. So let's talk about Olave and the Saints. We have a situation where, Jameis is out. Kamara is in. Kamara is active. So Kamara is back, but we remove Jameis. I don't know if that's positive or negative. We remove Jameis and we remove Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry. So I believe the 3 wide receiver set should be Chris Olave, Marquez Callaway, and Traquan Smith. And then a tight end rotation with Adam Troutman and Juwan Johnson. Chris Olave was projecting to be popular anyway before this. Now, similar to like the Godwin conversation that we had, is like the price, projection, upside, everything kind of too much, and then you start to build out with a Chris Olave. Again, he's playing the Seahawks. I think everyone just saw what the Lions did to the Seahawks and what everyone has done to the Seahawks. Have the worst defense in the NFL. And Chris Olave looks like an absolute smash. So how are you handling the Saints with this kind of new situation? I thought Landry would play, so this has me my mind in a pretzel a little bit.
That's where I was too. I had Landry projected in, so I actually got off of Olave. Now I'm probably going to have to get back on Olave. So I'm not sure how Dalton affects Olave, though. I think he helps Alvin Kamara, though, because I feel like he's going to check down more. But I'm not sure. What's your take on that, on Dalton's production?
I think Dalton is better for Kamara 100%. I also think Olave, in my opinion, this is in real time, so you guys can clip this later when I'm totally wrong. I think Olave is largely unchanged with the news. Now, obviously, unchanged from what our expectation was a half hour ago. Not unchanged. Like Michael Thomas being out matters, and Landry being out is like whatever. Landry had 2 targets last week. Like, I think it's not that. I think Olave had kind of clearly emerged into his role, whether it's Jarvis Landry or Marquez Callaway or Traquan Smith or whatever. I don't think that matters a ton. So, but I do think the ownership is going to gravitate more towards Olave with Landry out, because the projections are just going to be like, we got to give this production to somebody, because they're not really going to lower the overall projection of the Saints against the Seahawks. And so I think it's going to go to Olave, and I think he's a good play, of course, but I think ownership might outweigh maybe what the boost in production is. Where I do think the boost in production is probably Kamara. Think about this offense now against the Seahawks. Right. Kamara being back, they haven't been able to do shit on the ground, pardon my French, for weeks without Kamara. Mark Ingram, Tony Jones Jr. These guys are not doing anything, and now they don't really have a lot to go to in the air. If Seattle can continue to play well on offense, which I'm very skeptical of, but if they can continue to play well on offense with Geno and these guys, I think it's like closer to the old school Kamara role that we could see today. 70% of snaps, 8 targets, carry like 12 to 15 carries, goal line carries, and being the 1A 1B with Olave on the offense. And so I was not interested in Kamara before, actually, and I think he's the one who really gets a big boost for me.
Yeah, I agree with that take. I think this is big for Kamara, really. Having Dalton in as quarterback, and now Landry's out, just adds more to his projection targets. And so I really think this gives a big boost to Kamara. Kamara played 70% of the snaps in week 3. I would imagine he plays at least that amount today. So I think that'll be huge. And like you said, the Seahawks can't stop anybody. Olave's ownership is going to be super, super high. Like, we have him 24% in large field stuff. He's going to be even higher than that in single entries.
100%. And I also will say, We're looking at FanDuel here. FanDuel sponsoring the show. We're looking at FanDuel lineup HQ. He's going to be higher owned on DraftKings because his price, he's 5,700, correct, on DraftKings, and that's just like great. He's going to project like absolutely insane for 5,700 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's still going to be very popular, but at 6,900, it's there's some other guy. He's priced like CeeDee Lamb. He's priced like Deebo Samuel. He's priced like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Those guys. So it's a little bit different. But yeah, I'm very now. Like I said, my mind is a little bit in a pretzel with the Kamara thing because it was easier when I could tell myself the story of this is kind of still the same old Saints. But you just start removing these like really high quality pieces, and it's like this. Again, if they weren't playing the Seahawks, I probably wouldn't really care about this news. But like you said, look, the Seahawks, I stopped nosebleeds faster than the Seahawks stopped anybody on offense. They made I spent a whole week last week just dogging TJ Hawkinson. Every show I did on every platform or whatever last week was
you and I were very, very bearish on the Lions last week. And it was a tough scene for my bankroll last week. I can tell you that much right now.
Exactly. I played Rashad Penny. That was the only person I played from that game.
That's the only person I played too. And I flag planted Amari Cooper, who got 1 fantasy point.
And I'm literally telling everybody, like, if like TJ Hawkinson stinks, he's terrible. You remove all these players, he's not going to do anything, and he just drops 40 fantasy points as the highest owned tight end right on your head. And so you take that with a grain of salt. But what I think we somewhat learned and probably knew already was just how bad the Seahawks are. So yeah. I think we kind of covered running back a little bit. I think that puts Kamara. It makes Kamara like a lot more interesting to me for tournaments. And I'm not sure that people will react ownership wise for Kamara. Like I think the focus is going to be Olave for people, right? He's going to pop with projections. You're not going to give Jarvis Landry production to Alvin Kamara a lot. And I think, he's the lowest price on DraftKings he's been since week 7 of his rookie season or something like that. And I'll give you
a little pushback on that take, just because I think Kamara is going to be kind of high owned anyway. Okay. So this might, I do agree with your assessment that more people will flock to Olave, but I don't think Kamara is going to be like some kind of unowned guy. That's just, I do agree though that Olave is going to get more ownership.
Like from who gains more, I guess is how I would say it. Like
who gains more? Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair.
He's his baseline was still probably fairly high, as we see here as the 4th highest owned running back on FanDuel for us. But so Saints situation is very, I think Bucks, Saints, those are 2 of now the biggest, if not the biggest, decision points. And Patriots running backs. There we go. That's what we've now figured out is those. So let's talk a little bit. We hit running backs. We hit kind of some of the latest news. Actually, I want to talk about Isaiah McKenzie being out really quickly because low key it's kind of a big deal. The Steelers are a neutral, let's call it a neutral matchup. I'm very much not concerned about the Steelers for the Bills, but it's not like playing the Seahawks. However, I don't think, let me look at ownership again. This is FanDuel for everybody watching. And people aren't playing Stephon Diggs. People aren't playing Gabriel Davis. Somebody in chat asked about Khalil Shakir. I'm not even playing Khalil Shakir either, but nobody, this is the Bills. And Isaiah McKenzie is out and Jamison Crowder is out. Diggs and Gabe are going to play all the snaps on the outside, and Shakir's probably going to play all the snaps. Dawson Knox is also out. And so you can tell yourself a story like, oh man, they got a lot of injuries. This could be bad. You can also tell yourself a story. This is unowned Bills skill players in a good matchup with guys missing where the target's got to go somewhere. They're going to throw it 45 times. And so what do you think about the Bills without McKenzie?
Yeah, and this is going to be the fastest paced game on the entire slate. The Bills are projected to run the most plays on the entire slate, and the Steelers are projected to play run the second most plays. So it's tough. It's tough because it's tough to get a run back with the Steelers because I expect they're going to have a hard time moving the ball. But I mean, the Bills are just in such a smash spot today. I mean, Allen and I'm actually playing Allen and Diggs on FanDuel. I had them before this news. So
I have Diggs. I've had Diggs on FanDuel. Like I said, give it 20 more minutes and you're going to know my entire FanDuel team. But Stephon Diggs has been in my team as well on FanDuel. I love kind of all these superstar wide receivers, but it feels like just a couple weeks ago, everybody was, oh my God, look at Stephon Diggs with a 40% target share. He's crushing every single week. He had the huge, was it Monday night or Sunday night game or whatever, where he drops, 40 fantasy points, and everybody is like, Diggs is the thing. Diggs is the spend up wide receiver. He was really popular the week after or whatever. Would have been really popular last week if we didn't have weather in that Ravens Bills game, and still was reasonably owned. Now it's like we removed some of his target competition, put him in a good matchup, lowered his price a smidgen, and nobody's playing. And nobody's playing Stephon Diggs. So I think he stands out to me as a really strong tournament play. And I love also. I mean, what can you say about Josh Allen? Like I'm going to look at FanDuel again, or ownership again here. 18.5%, and we do have him as the highest owned quarterback. But I don't think his ownership is going to get out of control because Ertz is still there. No, and then if you want some savings, right, you have the Bradys and such of the world on FanDuel.
Right. Yeah, I don't think Allen's going to get out of hand in terms of ownership, which is great, right? I mean, if I was a big time GPP multi-enterer, then I would totally be overweight on Allen today.
Yes, I totally agree. Pranav says that the Diggs game is windy. I'm not super worried about.
I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I do get the concern though, because we are trying to make some tough decisions. So outside of the Bills situation, we talked about Bucks, right? We talked about kind of some of the latest injury news. We talked about the Bills being a really, really strong tournament play, which feels crazy to say, honestly, out loud. You're like, oh yeah, I can get leverage playing the Bills passing game, right, like in a good matchup. Where's kind of another place, like if you were going to start a game stack or something, where's that next stack?
We already touched on, I like the Chargers-Browns game, but we already talked about that. I think you got to talk about the Cardinals-Eagles game. I mean, that's going to be forgotten about. The Cardinals have the worst pass defense in all of football, and I think AJ Brown is going to go super, super low owned today.
Yep.
And he gets the best matchup on the board. He gets one of the best games on the board. I mean, that's like another amazing GPP play. Goddard is a great pivot off of Higbee. Of course, you could also go Ertz on the other side for a bring back. Devonta Smith is another kind of boom bust GPP play that I love. I think that game is going to go under owned also.
Hilariously, you mentioned Devonta Smith. That is a player who I have tagged here in Lineup HQ as a tournament play. But I totally agree. What is the Eagles are so fascinating to me, because if they had any pushback from any offense all season to make this team continue to be aggressive in the second half, we would be talking about them like, what are you doing? AJ Brown's only 12% against the Cardinals. Devonta Smith is only 11%. Devonta Smith is even lower owned on DraftKings, right? Why isn't Dallas Goedert the highest owned tight end on the worst tight end slate in the history of DFS? Why are we not playing Dallas Goedert? We would be having these conversations. Jalen Hurts is not 40%. Why is Jalen Hurts not 40% owned? But it's only because no one has been able to at least push them to be aggressive in the second half. So all that says, and yet Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback every week. Every week. They're never throwing in the second half, and he's not really running in the second half. And he's in a half of football, maybe 3/4. The dude is a top 5 quarterback every single week. And one of his skill players, if not multiple, are smashing as well. So I agree. It feels crazy that we can say play the Eagles and play the Bills in tournaments. And again, they're not going to be 2%. It's kind of like the Kamara thing. He's not going to be 2%, but play Josh Allen, Diggs, AJ Brown, or Hurts, Goddard, whatever. And on the offenses that are going to score a ton of points, I think that's another big takeaway for this kind of season is there are haves and have-nots. The Eagles are a have. They're going to score. They're going to score every single week, certainly against the Cardinals. So you can feel comfortable just playing those guys, and they're probably going to get their period, and they have the ceiling that is like almost unmatched because you have these bum teams like the Falcons that come out and run the ball 14 times in a row in a real life football game, like it's JV high school football. You have the Bears who have no interest in throwing, etc. And so I just think we can lean into some of these teams, right? Eagles, Bills, and I'm not trying to like oversimplify it because I know those guys are expensive, but I do think it's a huge crux of how we can build tournament teams right now.
Yeah, and it's just who would you want to run it back with the Cardinals? I think that you do need a run back because you need to keep them from.
You need them to
the
be
ball.
pushed. Yeah.
So I don't think you have to have a run back with the Buccaneers, but I think you have to have a run back with the Eagles. So it's like I hear like a lot of people talking about Rondale Moore, which I'm just not. I don't know. Like he's fine. I know he's cheap, but he did pop up on the injury report. So
he's a true game time decision. He's a true game time decision.
Late swap is really tough this week too. Like there's only 3 late games, so it's like you have to kind of leave yourself this probably suboptimal 2v2, right? Like, I think my favorite run back in that game would be Ertz, but it's tough. Like,
and doesn't that make you sick? Doesn't that make you sick? Like, if I have to decide on someone, my favorite run back is catch and fall down 32-year-old Zach Ertz or whatever.
He's so dust when he gets the ball in his hand.
But we saw last week. Sometimes you just need to have the vault, like, right? Just catch a bunch of balls, get lucky on a touchdown. And again, I was going to say Ertz as well, which again, we're touting Nick Chubb. These are guys that I literally will never, ever play, except maybe today. Nick Chubb and Zach Ertz. But I agree, man. I think the wide receivers, I really like Goddard too, of course. But I think A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are the Eagles side that is like super. I mean, you want to talk about reasonably owned monster upside, it's the Eagles, those 2 wide receivers to me, with of course Jalen Hurts, or without. You could play Josh Allen instead, or Brady instead, or whatever, and play one of these guys. But I think Ertz is the guy where when you think about the slate, it's not even just Ertz or a projection or ownership or anything like that. It's like, think about this slate. I don't want to play any of these tight ends. And well, maybe we can talk about tight end here after this. I don't want to play. Who wants to play any of these guys? Let me just play a bunch of wide receivers. I don't want to play Zach Ertz. I don't want to play chalk Tyler Higbee. I don't want to do that stuff. And so kind of correlating, that's a big crux of my slate, correlating my tight end, right? Whatever team I'm going to build, the tight end is either with my quarterback or as a run back to my quarterback. So I think Ertz fits there. Are there any other tight ends though that are kind of sticking out to you? Again, we probably don't need to talk about Tyler Higbee or whatever, and we talked about Ertz and Goddard. But I mean, this Tyler Higbee ownership is absolutely it's just absolutely out of control. Is there anybody else you like at the tight end position?
Well, I mean, of course, there's the mid-price Cade Otton. There's the $2,600 OJ Howard.
Yep.
I think that Dalton Schultz is kind of sort of interesting at 3,400. I bet he goes pretty low owns.
Yes.
I think Hunter Henry for the Patriots is kind of a weird play that nobody will play that could definitely score a touchdown. So I think he's interesting. But that's about it. Gerald Everett actually for the Chargers too.
I like the Gerald Everett thing. Fits really well in that game too. Again, kind of like play Chubb. Chubb has 2 50-yard touchdowns, right? And then Herbert, Mike Williams, Gerald Everett. And you just consume all of the charge. Obviously, there's still Eckler there, but from that sense, I really like that stack actually, which is another awkward one. I don't really do like a run first run. I don't like to stack like Derrick Henry with opposing passing games, but I think with Chubb, it makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna throw out. I really like OJ Howard. I think I have OJ Howard tagged, which also this slate is making me sicker and sicker the more that we talk about it. But I think I have OJ Howard tagged in lineup HQ. I think he's a really good play. I do think he's probably going to get a little bit of a boost of ownership. Him and Cade Otton are going to be the go-to punts. A guy I do want to bring up is John Bates for Washington. Logan Thomas is out today. Yeah. And look, nobody wants to play. I get it. I don't want to play guys attached to Carson Wentz either. But I think John Bates is a reasonably talented enough football player. Like, what's really the difference between Cade Otton and OJ Howard and John Bates? They're all just the same. And I think Washington can have some success through the air today, I think. And I think we've seen in the past with Washington, I know that Cole Turner and Armani Rogers are active and they're probably going to play a few snaps, but I think Bates is going to be the 75, 80% snap share tight end guy. And they don't have Jahan Dotson either. And so it's kind of condensed on their side. I don't expect they're going to have much success running the ball with Antonio Gibson. And Brian Robinson is also active today, going to play like 20 snaps or so, they said. But I think John Bates makes some sense. And I also do, this is reminding me, I also do think I tagged Terry McLaurin too. I think Terry McLaurin. I was just
going to bring him up. You made me think of him.
I think he's like I said, I have him tagged here. He's one of my favorite tournament plays. I mean, if I can get Terry McLaurin without Jahan Dotson against the Titans, who gave up like 40 fantasy points to Matt Collins and allowed Matt Ryan threw for 360 yards against this team. Did everybody watch the Thursday night game? Matt Ryan ain't it anymore. It's not it anymore. And he dusted this secondary. Without Jahan Dotson, I think Terry McLaurin is one of those guys you mentioned, right? Between 5,500 and 6,500 or whatever on DraftKings. He's also there on FanDuel. He's awesome. I love him today. What do you think about McLaurin, kind of the Bates punt, and kind of any other of those off the radar-ish type wide receivers?
I'll be honest, I did not even think of Bates, which probably means the field hasn't either. So I think that's a great call. I love the Terry McLaurin play. I was just about to bring him up. He took the words right out of my mouth about him. I think that's spectacular, really. He's going to be super, super low owned. I also kind of like Deontay Johnson for the Steelers today. I know that's super gross, but he's projected for a ton of targets. So we'll just have to see, but I think he makes for a great Millie Maker play today.
Great bring back to, you want to play Allen and Diggs. Yeah. They're going to really go light it up, man. Like Deontay, and I think Deontay and Pickens at the wide receiver position. I do think it was one game, but I think with Pickett taking over, I think it's definitely Pickens over Claypool now. In terms of like if I were ranking them for DFS, Claypool will probably have some games here and there, but I do think it's a little bit more clear of Deontay is the one, Pickens maybe the two, is how we should treat it moving forward, is those guys. Also, on a run back, I really like Pat Freiermuth at tight end. You want to talk about another tight end that like can score multiple touchdowns. His team is going to need to score. They're going to throw. Theoretically, Pickett helps. Theoretically, right? Pickett helps elevate the projection for these guys. And we're looking for tight ends. I don't have any tight ends I want to play, and he's low owned as well. He had 9 targets last week. He's shown double-digit target upside, and last year he showed multiple touchdown game upside. And so I agree. I think these are the guys though. Like this is I like to talk about, this type of thing on like you get into a tournament slate and you're like, dude, Terry McLaurin's playing without Jahan Dotson against a terrible secondary. 6,200 unowned, right? Pat Freiermuth. We don't have any tight ends. We're talking about freaking OJ Howard and Cade Otton on a slate. And there's Pat Freiermuth for 8%. It's like, I don't know. That seems pretty good. That seems pretty good to me. That's why at the top we talked about this slate is fascinating to me. And I think there's just such easy ways that like, I don't want to eat a bunch of chalk in one lineup. I'll have something, I'm sure, because once you build a really good team, there's probably the best projection, right? Lenny fits or Godwin fits or Kamara fits or whatever, Olave fits. But I just don't think we want to be on all the stone chalk today. Not that we ever do, but this week in particular, it really just feels like there are so many crazy high upside good plays that we can target.
There's so many great plays, all in the same kind of price range too. It's a really fascinating tournament slate. I can't wait to see how this pans out.
What do you think? So here's another thing I thought was interesting. We talked about Jeff Wilson, and both of us. Jeff Wilson is going to be the TJ Hawkinson and the Lions of this week. He's going to 100 yards and 3 touchdowns because we said we don't like him. But Debo is also pretty popular, and I agree with that game being super gross. I know Debo's cheap, and so his projection looks really good, but particularly on FanDuel, he's kind of high owned. I can't get around to that for me personally. I mean, I love Debo. He's a superstar. Look what he did last week with that absurd. Jimmy should have thrown a pick 6 and the dude catches it and houses it. But he's kind of one of the more over-owned guys to me in this slate on FanDuel, similar with Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, I'm not playing him. I have no interest in him on either site. That might be kind of a hot take on FanDuel. He's going to be super, super high owned, but I have no interest.
I totally agree. Let's talk about a couple more of kind of game stack. We talked about running back. We kind of talked about tight end. We'll hit a couple more game stacks to kind of talk. We talked about the most crazy injury news that, like I said, still I think has my mind in a pretzel. I don't know what I'm going to do with the whole Kamara thing as of now. But one spot that has me like kind of pretty interested is Miami and the Jets. The game environment is so-so. A duel between Teddy Bridgewater and Zach Wilson doesn't sound particularly appealing at face value. But if we set aside like the Teddy thing, and you just say, look, Mike, I'm handing my faith and trust over to Mike McDaniel and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and like rising tide lifts all votes. Teddy Bridgewater is like the same as Tua is what this is the story we're telling. He's just got to get the ball to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. And you do have some appealing run backs on the Jets side. They're also missing Xavier Howard, the Dolphins are, on defense, which I think makes someone like a Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore more appealing. And so I think this game is actually pretty interesting. Breece Hall, you mentioned Mostert. I think there's a lot of playable guys in this game that maybe outside of Tyreek, nobody's really going to play anybody in this game. And I kind of like it.
I like this game as one-offs. I don't like this game as a stack, just a little slow pace. That's my take on it. But I do agree with you from a macro perspective. Like, this game is good, but I think it's better as like a one-off than actual game stack.
And your favorite is, you mentioned Mostert. Is Mostert kind of your favorite?
I'm currently one-offing Mostert, but I might change that just because of this news that's come up since the show started.
Yep,
so I'm
makes sense.
I'm not positive.
Makes total sense. Let's talk about where's this? Rams. I want to talk about Rams Cowboys. I think probably one of the last things to discuss, like truly from an ownership perspective. You have Tyler Higbee and you have Cooper Kupp as two of the highest owned players on both sites, particularly Higbee at tight end. You're not getting much, obviously, other than CD on the Dallas side in terms of ownership, but the Dallas defense is not as much on FanDuel as you see here, but on DraftKings, where it's not the Bengals situation from a couple of weeks ago.
I think it is going to be.
You
like
think
the
so?
Bengals, though. Yeah, I do. Obviously the models don't agree with me, but I think it will be. I think they're going to be uber chalky, and that makes me super nervous for large field GPPs. I have them currently in my single entry build on DK, but just chalky defense is just so unattractive. So I might change it. I think they're going to get way out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, you need a touchdown.
You don't think they're going to be like the Bengals?
I didn't originally, but kind of as you were saying that, and I'm trying to think through, there are just no pivots that the field will like.
Right.
They're absolutely the cheapest. They project as one of the highest scoring defenses on the entire slate, and they're basically the cheapest on DraftKings. So I think you're probably right. And I mean, from a real football perspective or whatever, right? The pass rush, we get all that. They should have multiple sacks. I mean, my God, the Rams offensive line is a train wreck, and the pressure Dallas is getting, I get it. But they need a touchdown. Because it's not like the Rams are they're not gonna get shut out. They're going to score some points. So you literally need a touchdown. Even if they get like 6 sacks to win a tournament, you need a touchdown from this defense. And like, dude, a 40% owned or 50% owned defense that I need a touchdown from. I don't know. Do you have any pivots in particular that you like? Maybe we can just wrap up with the defense side of things. I'll throw one out that's $100 more in that gross game that we were talking about. That why are the 49ers chalky? The Panthers defense. The Panthers have a lot of talent on their defense. They're not necessarily showing it all the time, but they have really talented corners, tons of like high draft capital players. Brian Burns was like my sneaky defensive player of the year pick. That was a waste of $100 before the season started, but they have pass rushers. Trent Williams is out. The offensive line is in shambles for the 49ers, and it's Jimmy Garoppolo. If I told you Jimmy Garoppolo threw 2 back-breaking interceptions today, would you be surprised? No, of course not. So the Panthers are probably my favorite pivot.
I don't mind the Patriots. I know that sounds kind of gross because they haven't been great, but it wouldn't shock me if the Lions turn over the ball 3 times in this game, and then we get a Stevenson Harris type combo, touchdown or something like that. So it correlates pretty well with those 2 guys. I think for like a Millie Maker team, I think the Texans are kind of interesting, just as like a price point pivot. I don't think their secondary is quite as bad as we think they are, so I think they're okay. And then I actually don't mind paying up at defense today and going to like somebody like the 49ers, right?
Yes,
Did you already mention them?
No, but we talked about that game. I mean, both of those. I bet the under on that game, just to be so we're doing transparency Sunday. I bet the under on that game, and I love both defenses. I really don't. I think it's going to be like 13-10 or something like that.
Right. So I mean, I think if you're going up, I like the Niners.
Yeah, I also like the Eagles. I want to toss the Eagles out there because the Eagles defense is just off. I like that game. I want to play Hurts. I want to play all these guys. Somebody mentioned, Greg mentioned Sanders. I think Sanders is a good play as well. Play Sanders in the Eagles defense. The Eagles defense is like elite, and the Cardinals offense, spoiler alert, is not very good on the old Cardinals side. And so I think the Eagles could kind of dominate them, and we get it's 28-7 at halftime, and Miles Sanders gets 25 carries. Again, I could absolutely see that. So again, always Brian, I'll leave this for Luch and Kristi and everybody on the final show here. But my advice is find $400 for Zay Jones. He's very much my favorite guy down there. There's probably some other guys that I'm missing. Go into lineup HQ and kind of sort by the cheap guys or whatever. But I'm really in on Zay, which leads me to, I'll kick it off with the final take on the GPP Final Takes show. Who is your guy that you need to have in tournaments? It's Zay Jones for me. Zay Jones, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns today, coming back as your cheap punt. He makes everything work on both sites, and just absolutely love Zay Jones today. What do you think, Tim?
I like Nick Chubb. Go right back to our original running back kind of hot take. I like him for 120 and 2 TDs today. Love it.
So there you go. Preload the lineup. Nick Chubb, Zay Jones, fade our 49ers are going to score like 45 points today because we said that game is gross. Jeff Wilson is the TJ Hawkinson of week 5,
the Jamal Williams of week 5.
Yes, exactly. But everybody have a wonderful Sunday. Enjoy your sweats, and all your questions that we didn't get to, make sure to hop in and ask them for the final show here leading up to lock. And we will see you guys in week 6. Peace.
What's going on, Grinders? This Chief, and we're talking the main slate for Sunday for NFL on Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight 2.0, that is. Get on Monkey Knife Fight 2.0. New, streamlined site, aesthetically pleasing, new in the app as well. They've got it hooked up over there. Get in there and make yourself some money. And while you're doing that, hop in the prop shop and let us help you build the bankroll that you've been trying to get this whole year. We're going to the game of the week for me. It's Houston. It's the Jaguars. Is it more? Is it less? Let's find out. So in the traditional DFS streets, this may not be a big game for most, but in the prop streets, it's definitely a big game for me. We got James Robinson at 64.5 rushing yards. Definitely think he goes over this number here. Houston giving up tons, and I do mean tons of rushing yards on the ground. I'm expecting Jacksonville to be in control of this game, and as a result, I'm expecting James Robinson to rush to the money line for us, over 64.5 rushing yards. And then we've got Brandon Cooks on the other side, has only eclipsed this number once this season, but with me expecting him to trail here in the amount of targets he's getting in this offense, he's one big play away every week from breaking the slate wide open. And from a props perspective, definitely think he's able to get in, pick up the targets, pick it up on volume, and I think he gets one big play or 20-plus yards that's going to basically carry us over this number. Love this combination of props this week on Monkey Knife Fight, looking to help you put some money back in your pocket.
All right, folks, this is week 5. We've been talking Monday Night Fight for NFL. I'll see you back here tomorrow for more NFL action for Monday Night Football.
What's up, everybody? Welcome. Week 5 NFL RotoGrinders Crunch Time. I'm the Luch Justin Carlucci. What a London game we are seeing right now. It's just about wrapping up here. I'm here with Kristi Metzger and Andre Alford. We're getting ready to break down some action here. What's going on, Kristi? How are you?
Hey, good to see you. I know it's been a little while since we've done a show together. And yeah, as always, it's always great to break down the slate with all of you guys. So good to see you.
You too. Dre, what's going on? What'd you think about this early game today?
I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I didn't know I lost a parlay off of it, so it is what it is.
Speaking of parlays, you've worked a lot with Parlay IQ at Scores and Odds. What are your thoughts about Parlay IQ, Dre?
It's phenomenal. I love it. I can't wait for the alt lines to come to it because I feel like that would help a little bit more. But other than that, it's great. It's a phenomenal tool. I've been close to general just hitting my parlays, but honestly, it's just a one-stop shop to make it easier. Like I literally can sit there on one page, look at the percentages, and go from there and figure out what I want to do.
Check out scoresandodds.com. #1 place for all things sports betting related. Parlay IQ is free right now. It's awesome. It's going to change the way you put in same game parlays. Of course, we have premium picks, a bunch of free content as well. And we are about to have, this is like arguably the best time of the year, other than March Madness and spring training and everything like that. But we are having a mega sports overlap. And it's going to be great. Kristi, is this your favorite time of the year, or does it rank highly?
You know, it really does. Like you said, March Madness is right up there, but we're heading into basketball season here shortly, so lots of great sports for sure.
Absolutely. Drop your questions in the YouTube chat and in the RotoGrinders NFL Crunch Time Discord, and we will get to them towards the end of the show. And again, you can sign up at FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state. You want to take advantage of the no sweat first bet that they offer up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. Without further ado, let's dive into this thing and we'll go position by position. And let's start with quarterback. You know, you got Josh Allen, of course, 2-touchdown favorite over Pittsburgh. He is very expensive and rightfully so. Jalen Hurts just absolutely balling out this season as well. He's, priced accordingly. Maybe 6 weeks ago, I didn't think we'd see Jalen Hurts right under Josh Allen in terms of pricing, but he's having a fantastic season. So I'll kick it over to you first, Dre. What are you thinking at quarterback today?
Quarterback, I have a lot of quarterbacks. I'm trying my best right now to trim it down, but it's very difficult because I can just see this game get this going in so many different ways. But my favorite is Tom Brady. I can't get away from it. The way he has just dominated Atlanta over the past 10 games he's played him. All his 10 games he's played him. It's just been phenomenal. So I think he's just a great pick to go with. And I would honestly double stack him. That's my way to use it to get different leverage because you have so many different options you can go with. And he's throwing definitely at least 2 touchdowns today. I probably think like 3 or 4, to tell you the truth. And I think I listened to the stat last time there. He's had like ever since he's been a Buccaneers, he's thrown at least 2 touchdowns and had maybe one game under 200 yards, but every game I think like around 250, I should say. Sorry, then every game over like 300 if I'm correct. So I think that's a phenomenal spot for him. But I also do kind of like into like Kirk Cousins, Jalen Hurts, Andy Dalton, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Teddy B. I even got to sprinkle a little bit of Carson Wentz and Geno Smith in there too today. So those are the guys I'm looking at today. Going to have a little bit of everyone today.
Yeah, it is worth noting that in that Pittsburgh-Buffalo game, Roth has 15-mile-per-hour sustained winds and some strong gusts. Possible shower, but not too likely. Talk to me about quarterback here, Kristi. What are your thoughts for today?
Yeah, I like a lot of the quarterbacks that Dre just mentioned. My pool is maybe a little bit tighter. I agree. Brady is one of my top plays on the slate. I wrote him up on one of my tags too. Like Dre said, like he has just absolutely owned Atlanta in the past. The last 3 games alone, he's put up over 1,000 yards and 13 passing touchdowns. All of his weapons are, you've got Godwin, you've got Evans back. Braid is out. So, I think Evans and Godwin are such great receivers to come back with. And I agree on the double stack. I think they're both going to get their share this week. So love that play a lot. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. Love both those guys too. Josh Allen, even, they're big favorites, but even so, they tend to keep the guys going, and Josh will keep throwing in the game. So I like Josh Allen a ton. Steelers have been using a lot of man coverage, and if that's the case, Diggs and Gabe Davis should absolutely smash in this spot. Jalen Hurts, he's just been putting up numbers too. He's such a great cash game play and tournament play. You can play him solo, or you can play him with some of his receivers, with AJ Brown and Goddard today. But what's great about Hurts is he hasn't even really put together a full game. He's had a lot of halves where he's put up like 20 to 22 points. And boy, if you double that in a good matchup, he could really put up some big numbers today. So definitely like him too. Teddy Bridgewater is another guy that I wrote up. I do have interest in that game. He's at a good price point. And I think Tyreek and Waddle, because they've been carrying in questionable tags all week, they have just as much upside as anybody on the slate. So I like that game. And the last one I'll mention for tournaments too is Kirk Cousins. I like that Minnesota Bears environment. Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Thielen, all those guys I think are great plays. So those are a lot of the guys that I'm looking at this week at quarterback.
Yeah, and we're going to stick right there in that Tampa Bay game as we transition over to running back. And the reason for that is we are projecting a ton of ownership on Leonard Fournette. Rightfully so. They're pretty heavy, 10-point favorites last time I checked. Atlanta's terrible against running backs. Should be a positive game script. It should be a positive game script and a good game environment for somebody in Tampa Bay, whether it's going to be in the air or on the ground. So, Dre, I'll throw it back to you. What's your interest in Leonard Fournette for daily fantasy? Are you looking at any props with Fournette or anything like that?
It's equally, it's definitely equally likable. As I would say, it's a good spot for him as it is for Tom Brady. So to me, you got to play him. I don't I understand. Yeah, he didn't get as much of the carries last time. 3 carries I believe that he got last time, but that doesn't matter. I think they're trying to preserve him a little bit. I think he's always hurt, but that also got out of hand. You needed to pass the ball. We understand he's a passing down back, but I think that he's still. He can catch the ball, but I think they want to incorporate White more. You got to use your whole team to your advantage to get these players more involved in the season and get them in certain situations, so that way you can use multiple guys in certain spots, not be just a one-dimensional team or one-sided team. So I like Leonard Fournette a lot. These other running backs that I like, just for that game, I like the whole game a lot for those guys. But other running backs that I think you can get with James Robinson, I love a lot today. Alvin Kamara, obviously, Bryce Hall, Dameon Pierce. I feel like I'm almost at a standstill with this Patriots situation with the running backs. I feel like I'm almost at a think that you have to play at least one Patriot running back in every single lineup. One of these guys or not both of them are going to easily have a big day. So I feel like at the prices that they are, especially on both sides, I think you have to play probably at least one in every single lineup. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Man, if Steve's working, you got that mute count for me for season-long stats. Why is nobody playing Nick Chubb, Kristi? What is happening? Do you have any interest there for tournaments?
I do. I have a ton of interest in Nick Chubb. You're exactly right. It seems like he's the guy we're always talking about. And what else does he have to do to, carry some ownership here? Because there's so many of those mid-tier plays, I feel like on both sides. Yeah, he's gonna get overlooked. Love him as a tournament play. For me, especially on FanDuel, but Dalvin Cook, if he's he's just in a smash spot. He's down to, 7.3K on FanDuel, similar price over on DK, but this is just a great spot against the Bears, who they're just not good against the run. He should be able to tear them up. So like that a lot. Kamara is a great price. I just think he's in a good spot. He's finally healthy. I mean, he's kind of come out and said, hey, I'm ready to go. I mean, his price is cheap on both sites too. I think he's great. Then you get some of those cheap guys, Jeff Wilson. It's hard to ignore his price. I do worry a little bit about Debo. They'll certainly use him in the red zone too. So although I like Jeff Wilson, I am certainly underweight on him. And I agree with Dre. You look at those Patriot backs there. Both Stevenson and Harrison should absolutely smash. I mean, they're in just a great spot. Should be enough production for both of them. Lions give up a league high 2 rushing touchdowns per game, and so it should just be a field day for both of those guys. Let's see. Lastly, I would throw in there just on tournament plays too. I think Breece Hall over on DraftKings too. He's had a good price point, and he's a good pivot away from some of those Patriot running backs and Jeff Wilson. So certainly have interest there. And then I think you could also throw Miles Sanders in there as a GPP play back in that Philadelphia game. I think Philadelphia is actually an interesting defensive play. So both of those guys as well.
I like Beimfohr's call on Devin Singletary. He has him tagged on lineup HQ. There's a possible steamrolling that could happen, and he could get a ton of work in the second half. And I think he played almost 90% of the snaps last week. So that's another interesting name to monitor as well. Let's move on to wide receiver, 12:37 p.m. Eastern here. We'll definitely get to your questions once we go around the horn here. Cooper Kupp is an animal. I mean, we don't really have to talk about Cooper Kupp too much. Pretty good matchup against Dallas. He's definitely carrying some ownership here. Kristi, I want to stick with you because I see Tyreek Hill is tagged with the little purple blip on our screen here, and you talked briefly about Teddy Bridgewater in this game. So tell me more about Tyreek Hill and some more about wide receiver today.
Yeah, so for wide receiver, obviously Cooper Kupp at the top. I mean, he's expensive, but he's certainly worth it, and we have him projected to be the highest owned. I personally have found myself not getting to him this week just because there's some other plays that I like, but I certainly like that play. I think Deebo Samuel on FanDuel is just kind of a misprice there at 7,300. Just makes a ton of sense over there. But yeah, Tyreek for tournament plays, since Thursday, he's been carrying a questionable tag. I mean, the upside is huge for Tyreek. It's huge for Jalen Waddle. He just has to get the ball, and they're going to take off. So I love that. Probably one of my favorite GPP plays on the week. I see we have him at 13% ownership, so it's creeped up a little bit now that he's in the game, but certainly like that. I love Evans and Godwin, and I like the double stacks for my Brady stacks as well. I think they both should absolutely smash. Evans had 12 for 174 and 2 touchdowns against Atlanta last year, so he's had big games, and then Godwin has had just about the same. So I mean, the numbers should support both of them. AJ Brown might go a little bit overlooked, but my goodness, I mean, he's such a great play with Jalen Hurts today. I think he's one of the better plays on the slate too. I know there's a few people that have him tagged as well. Like him a ton. I think you could also throw Devonta Smith in there too. I mean, those are the guys that Hurts will be looking for. So I think even going a double stack there is great. And then we talked a little bit about the Bills game, Stephon Diggs. This is a great get right spot for him. And I'm going to throw Gabe Davis in there too. I think he's going to go very much overlooked today, but he has practiced all week long. His price point is really good on FanDuel at just $6K. So I have a lot of exposure to Gabe Davis, and we know what he can do in the right matchups. I mean, he can put 2-3 touchdowns up in a hurry. So I like that. And then also Justin Jefferson. Again, we mentioned he's in a smash spot. You have to pay up for him. But I really like a lot of these Vikings against the Bears today.
Yeah, a lot of good points there. Dre, what are you thinking here? There's a lot of value today, and it's carrying a lot of ownership. Drake London is really cheap. Obviously, no Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts has been the NFL talk of Twitter this week. Everyone has had it with Kyle Pitts, and now he's just not going to play. So obviously, Chris Olave is in a good spot, 5,700, as is Chris Godwin. I mean, we're projecting 20+% ownership for these guys on DraftKings, but it is for good reason, and I think those are guys you probably definitely have to consider in your cash builds. Would you agree with me there, Dre?
Yeah, definitely have to consider them in the cash build for sure. You said Drake London in cash build. I understand because of the situation he's in. I don't know how much I love it though. That's my biggest thing. Like, I think London's obviously he's in a great spot. He's a young wide receiver, a rookie, but like the Buccaneers defense can play really well at times, especially the secondary. I know they're beat up a little bit, but like that's the one thing that I get afraid of with teams like these. Like they can be very unpredictable, and you don't know which way they're going to go as far as how they're going to play. But I think we were. I was listening to something earlier this week where they were talking about the concept of man versus zone in the NFL nowadays, and a lot of it's like 50% or more is zone. So if it's a lot of zone coverage that they're going to run out there, then obviously he can. You can find the seams and you can get out in that open space, and you just got to catch the ball. And at that point, Drake London to be fine. I just would be probably at the field that a little bit lower on him personally. I'd rather go with other guys. So like Chris Olave to me is a lock for cash. You have to play with cash. So is Godwin. The prices are just too good, and they're just too good of a player. But I do like other guys around here. Like we're not talking about guys like Justin Jefferson, who's in a good spot against Chicago Bears, who I think can go off and have a monster game. AJ Brown going against this Arizona secondary, who's not that great. So that he can also have a good game. These Seahawks receivers, who I know these are probably cash and these are GPP plays, but I think they could definitely be paid in cash for sure, because these guys, they get the volume, they get the targets, and they can have the upside games. And then we have to also think about Cooper Kupp. Why are no one talking about Cooper Kupp today with cash? Like he's to me the top cash play of them all. Just for 19 targets, which is absurd. But he should, if he's going to get that kind of work, he's just a lock every single week. Don't care what price he is.
Who are you looking at for tournaments? I mean, there's some high ceiling guys at single digit projected ownership, and
Right.
Kristi talked about Stephon Diggs, but man, Hollywood.
I would say Terry McLaurin was my favorite tournament play of the day. I've been riding him since week one. I'm going to keep on doing it and keep playing him until he hits. He should. I don't know what's up with Carson Wentz in their connection, but Terry if he doesn't have a good a smash spot in this game, I don't know what's going to happen. But he should. I like Adam Thielen as well. I do like. I like kind of getting also a little bit like weird. I like Russell Gage a lot, since that's one of the low end Buccaneers guys. Because he just got taken off the injury report, and people might think, oh, he's still a little bit hurt, but he's still gonna get the targets. I'm kind of interested in trying to. I really want to play some St. Brown, but I'm gonna run St. Brown, but I'm not sure how much if I'm really gonna do it or not. I do like Caleb. I like CeeDee Lamb a lot too as well. Robert Woods, your guy for your Titans. I like him a lot. Mike Williams, Amari Cooper. Just trying to get some of these guys, and also some little bit like run backs or mini game stacks.
Okay. Let's and it sounds like you guys mutually like Minnesota for tournaments based on.
Hey, I'm also mention on the run back, Darnell Mooney. I found myself in a few. I mean, I like that game in general. Mooney has been terrible, but a couple of those games have been tough games. That came out of the chute, there was a ton of rain and weather issues. So I like Mooney. I think he's sneaky, and then CeeDee Lamb. I think the teams have been torn by number one receivers. So I think conversations with GPP play.
Let's move on to tight end here. It's about 12:45 p.m. Eastern. George Kittle, single digit ownership, hasn't had his day yet this year, Dre. But what are your thoughts on Kittle at the top here?
I like him. That's the guy you want to continue to play constantly. I feel like whether with the low ownership or not, until he he has a smash game, because it's going to come eventually. He was just a step foot away from a touchdown last week. So to me, George Kittle's a phenomenal play. I know this guy, we got a lot of Kate Otten talk up because of Tom Brady, but Tom Brady does love his tight ends, so I don't mind that at all. But I want to get just a lot of guys that I want to get to, though, a tight end like Gerald Everett, O.J. Howard, Zach Ertz, Dalton Schultz. But one of my favorite guys has coming in at 1% owned that I'm really going to, right now, trying to hammer get over the field, though, is Will Dissly. I think he's a cheap guy close to the bottom. He scored at least 10 points in every single game except for one, and that was against San Francisco, which is fine because it's San Francisco. But other than that, I think he scored a touchdown too in every single game so far too. So I think he's in a great spot, a decent spot against the Saints. But I think with the way they play, That's going to be surprised if Gino looks for him quite a bit often in some check down situations and gets him open.
Kristi, let's talk about the tight end position here, and then we'll have some time to talk some stacks and take some questions from the chat.
Yeah, I would say tight ends. I think, Higbee's obviously popular, but I think this is a place to really get different. I think, Dallas Goedert's in a great spot. I have interest in him. I have interest in Zach Ertz in that same game. He kind of gets a revenge game too. So I think this is a place to really get different. Kate Otten, I think, definitely makes some sense if you're looking to save money at the position. And then I'd even throw like Irv Smith into the conversation. Super cheap player. And Njoku's a great play. So for me, I think, get away from Higbee, although I like him and I think he's the cash game play, especially over on FanDuel. The targets have been there. He just hasn't scored a touchdown, but he's obviously a big part of that offense. But I think this is a place you get a little bit different and away from some of the chalk.
Dre, we talked about Minnesota briefly. Give me one or two other stacks you're looking at for GPPs.
That's tough because I'm really trying to iron it out right now, finish it up. But I do like. I'm really like getting a lot of obviously Tom Brady and Tampa Bay, but I do like Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler with Mike Williams stacks a lot, or with Mike Williams and Gerald Everett stacks a lot. I kind of like I said, the Carson Wentz, McLaurin Skinny stack. I like that a good amount. Jalen Hurts. I like the Hurts, Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert stack as well. And I'll give one more that I like a lot too. It's obviously Andy Dalton, Alvin Kamara, and Chris Olave. That's another one.
Kristi, anybody else other than Minnesota you're looking at today?
And you're talking, excuse me, I was just trying to fix my mic on here for defense or?
I was looking for GPP like stacks for offense.
Yeah, so for Minnesota, that Miami game, I like that. So I've got some Bridgewater exposure there. We like Minnesota. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I have anyone else. Yeah, those are probably my main ones. But I do definitely over the field on Minnesota today for sure.
Cool. Sounds good. Let's get to some questions. It's 12:48 Eastern, guys. Hope you're at the tail end of your process here as we're almost ready for Week 5 action. Thanks for sticking with us here on RotoGrinders NFL Crunch Time, presented by FanDuel. Popping into our Crunch Time Discord real quick. Dre, first question from JMVP and DK Cash. Would a double tight end lineup build with Higbee and Ertz to get the San Fran defense be too cute? Is it worth getting the San Fran defense?
It's not worth getting the San Fran defense because we know defense is such a volatile position. So banking on San Francisco to be the highest score defense is something I wouldn't do. I wouldn't put my eggs in that type of basket and reduce my projected ownership. My projected ceiling with two tight ends based on that, because I don't think two tight ends is going to be the route to go with to win the slate today. I think it's really going to be a running back. Or it's either going to be 3 running backs or 4 wide receivers today.
Okay. Kristi, got a FanDuel single entry question for you. Bridgewater, Tyreek Hill, and the 49ers defense, or Andy Dalton, Cooper Kupp, and the Falcons defense?
I would take the first one just because I like Tyreek and I like that game, and I do like the 49ers defense too. So I take the first one.
Cool. Sounds good. I'm going to jump over here to the YouTube chat. I don't see any other questions in the Discord at the moment here. So let's go with, let's see, B-Shot. Ramondre Stevenson or Drake London? What's up, B-Shot? What do you think, Dre? It's season-long PPR flex. Whenever I mention season-long, B-Shot comes in the chat. All right, straight up. Ramondre or Drake London? Who would you take this week, Dre?
Ramondre all day.
Okay.
This week, easy.
All right, you heard it there, B-Shot. Ramondre it is. Question from Cheyenne in the YouTube chat. Kristi, what are your thoughts about Fournette, I'm assuming? Worried about his workload at all against a crappy team like the Falcons? Maybe the game gets out of control. What do you think about Fournette? You worried about his workload at all?
I do worry about that a little bit. I really do. I probably, that's why I lean more towards the receiving side of it, just because, if they do get to a lead, we saw what happened last week with Rashad White getting a couple of extra carries and things like that. So yeah, it is concerned. I do have exposure, but I'm underweight.
Okay. Hey, Dre, back in the Discord. Yup, That's Me has a question. Got any Rashard Penny today? He says no one's talking about him, and he's about to run him in cash. What are your thoughts about Penny? Would you play him in cash, or is he a tournament look?
That's a tournament look. I do not like Rashard Penny today. Like that passing attack against the Saints more, and I'm a Saints fan. Granted, you can run the ball on us a little bit, but I'd just rather attack into the air.
Okay. Okay, Kristi, tight end question here. Juwan Johnson or John Bates?
I would probably take Bates. I mean, I'm assuming it's for a tournament, but yeah, you could play either one, probably Bates.
Okay. Dre, any love for Shakir with McKenzie out today up in Buffalo?
I like him today as a cheapie. I just don't know how much work he's going to really get, so I'll be careful of that a little bit.
Okay. Anybody have thoughts on Curtis Samuel today? I'll leave that open to the floor.
I do like him. We didn't really mention him, but yeah, especially Logan Thomas is out. I think they could use him in a variety of ways, and his price is really good. So yeah, great call.
Dre, you agree there?
I like him a lot today too.
Okay. Jumping back in our Discord quick from Falcor. Stevenson or Singletary on FanDuel, Dre? It's a high dollar single entry. So Stevenson or Singletary?
High dollar single entry, Stevenson.
Yep.
Hold on,
Okay.
Roger Stevenson, all day.
Yep.
I don't know why I keep thinking about that like that.
From Andre, it is. One more from JMVP in the Discord. Thoughts on a Chargers Cleveland game stack?
Love it
in DraftKings. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we like it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we didn't talk a lot about that game, but that's the whole point. I mean, they're going to be under-owned, and there's a ton of great weapons in there, so I like it.
Yeah, whenever you can get high-end talent at low ownership, that's the way to go. And that's what it looks like.
Is my second or third highest owned quarterback in my lineup.
Cool. Love it. Let's go. I can't remember who I asked last, so I'll go over to Kristi. Drake London or Godwin on DraftKings?
Godwin all day.
Okay. Got a FanDuel Cash question for you, Dre, from Jack in the YouTube chat. Pick two. Yeah, pick two of these four. Christian Kirk, Robert Woods, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans.
Christian Kirk, Robert Woods, or Chris Godwin?
And Mike Evans.
Oh, my gosh. See, I'm going to go Godwin and Evans.
Can you play them both together in cash?
If you're running Tom Brady at quarterback, yeah. I'll see why not. So,
what are your thoughts? Godwin and Evans together? Is that okay in cash?
I probably wouldn't do it in cash, but I love it in tournaments. Absolutely love it in tournaments.
Okay. Sounds good. I like the floors of those guys, I think, more than Kirk. I mean, Kirk's having a great start to the year, and it's a pretty decent game, but he's a little more volatile, I think, probably.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's scary.
Speaking of scary, I'll stick with you, Dre. Scary Terry or Curtis Samuel on DraftKings? Who do you got?
Scary Terry.
All right. FanDuel Cash, Kristi. Kamara and CeeDee Lamb or Stevenson and Olave?
For cash, I'd probably go Stevenson and Olave.
Okay. DK Cash question over back in the Discord here, Dre. London and the Dolphins defense. So Drake London and the Dolphins defense, or Christian Kirk and the Cowboys defense for cash?
London Dolphins, because that's going to be more popular.
Okay. Let's see here. DK Cash, big question. Kristi, let's see. Would we rather have Lockett and Jeff Wilson? Yeah, Lockett and Jeff Wilson, or Zay Jones and Kamara?
I would say, did they say, is this cash?
Yes.
Yeah, I would go Lockett and Wilson.
Okay. Dre got a tight end question over here. John Bates or Cade Otton?
Is it cash or?
I have no idea.
I'm going to try to say Cade Otton.
Okay. Any thoughts on defenses? I know we don't spend a lot of time on it. You know, it's pretty volatile. Kristi, any defenses in your pool that you're high on?
Yeah, I would say, I think the Cowboys are going to be popular on DK. I would say some that I like that are maybe a little bit under-owned, I would say Patriots defense, because we like a lot of those Patriots running backs. I think they're interesting. I like Philadelphia. I like the 49ers defense. And then I would like to pay up for the Bills defense too, just, going against a rookie quarterback. So I think if you're paying up, it's a good play.
Okay. We got 12:56. We'll try to lightning around these questions here. FanDuel, Dre, Stephon Diggs or Deebo Samuel?
Diggs. Oh my gosh. Probably Stephon Diggs.
Okay. Kristi, Panthers defense or Patriots defense?
Patriots for me.
Okay, Patriots. Dre, FanDuel cash. Who's more of a priority, AJ Brown or Chris Olave?
Chris Olave.
Okay. Kristi, is Jacoby okay for FanDuel GPP? If not, is there anybody else in that range that you're looking at?
What did you say?
Jacoby Myers, is that okay for FanDuel tournament?
For tournaments, yeah, sure.
Okay. Let's see. Dre, should Dave in the chat play Herbert since Montgomery is back?
Herbert since Montgomery is back. I wouldn't play Khalil Herbert. That's what you're talking about playing. Don't play him.
Yeah. Let's see here. Just got back from the store. Do you like playing a Houston-Jacksonville stack in DK tournaments, Kristi? What's your thoughts on that game?
I think that's another great game, too. We didn't spend a lot of time on that. I think it's a great game for DPs.
Okay. All right, Dre. For DK Cash, how would you rank these guys? Stevenson, Jeff Wilson, and Breece Hall. Who would you prioritize?
Stevenson, Jeff Wilson. Stevenson, then Hall, and then Jeff last.
Okay. Makes sense here. Let's see. I think we covered most of everything. If I missed anything, drop them in before one, guys. Oh, B-Shot had a question. Can we get some leverage off chalky pieces in the Atlanta-Tampa Bay game with Algier, the rookie running back? Any interest there?
I do. In fact, there was a couple spots that I kind of landed on that price point too. And yeah, I think he's a fine play. It's a tougher matchup, but he doesn't have to do a whole lot to get there. So I like that.
I did miss a couple questions in the chat with all of this action going on. Sorry. Dre, I'll throw it over to you. 12:58 Eastern. Is Geno with Lockett or Metcalf cash viable on FanDuel?
Geno with Lockett cash viable.
Yeah, or Metcalf. Would you play them in cash?
Yeah, not both of them together, obviously, because I think one quarterback should go, but definitely could do it for sure.
Kristi, FanDuel cash. Singletary and the Niners defense or Kamara and the Commanders defense?
Ooh, I would probably say Kamara and Commanders defense.
Okay. Dre, over to you. 12:59 Eastern, guys. Start hitting that save button. Olave or Kamara straight up for FanDuel tournaments. Who do you got, Dre?
Oh, God. One of them? Oh, my God. I don't know. Give me Kamara.
All right. Mostert, Conklin, or Harris and Hunter Henry? And boy, these spam bots are getting annoying because I keep missing questions, and I'm sorry. What are your thoughts? Mostert and Conklin or Harris and Hunter Henry?
Mostert, Conklin, Harris, or Hunter Henry. The first one.
Boom. I apologize again if we missed anything specifically there, but I think we covered pretty much anything. 1 o'clock, we have hit Week 5 main lock. And I hope this helped everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us here. You guys got any bets going on today? Anything you guys put in today? I mean, Dre, I know you got to have one parlay cooking or something like that.
I have a lot. 3 of them done. I only was able to get 3 of them in on Scores and Odds, so go check that out. But I'll give one out that I really do like a lot. It's a small one. Do the Patriots game. I got Jamal Williams over 60 yards, Stevenson over 50, Harris over 60 rushing yards for both of them. Jamal Williams over 60 rushing yards as well. St. Brown over 50 receiving yards, and TJ Hockenson over 40 receiving yards. Something simple. Should cash. Go get it. Put $250 on it. Get yourself some money.
Kristi, any bets or any final takes on today?
I think you and I kind of liked a bet. We were kind of on Pickens for sure. Liked him over 38.5.
Oh, yeah.
Receiving yards. I think that's a great play today. So that's one of my faves.
Yeah, we have a ton of premium bets in for this week over at Scores and Odds for the 1 o'clock game, the 4 o'clock game, and we'll have the primetime games covered. Big primetime game tonight, Cincinnati and Baltimore. So before we go, let me hear your predictions on who wins that game.
Cincinnati, Baltimore. See, you're gonna make me mad because you're gonna get me in trouble because my fiance is a Baltimore Ravens fan. But I really want to go with Cincinnati today because that's my team. I like Cincinnati a lot, so I'm gonna ride with Cincinnati tonight.
I'm actually riding with Cincinnati as well. I like them. I think they have a good big bounce back spot here. So like Cincy.
Awesome. And before we go, I will say good luck to Steve. He's a big Mets fan, so I'm sure he doesn't care about football today. So we got MLB playoffs. Steve, I don't know if you're there, but do you have any predictions?
Oh, I guess he got disconnected. Well, is he back? Steve, he's good?
No, we lost Luch.
He
just disappeared.
Just disappeared. Well, good. Well, he's back.
Looks like I got. Did you kick me out, man? Did I say something?
No, you just disappeared.
Guess I really wanted to get out of here. Anyway, good luck to your Mets. How do you feel about the game tonight?
I'm nervous, but I think they're gonna take it.
I like it.
I like it. I should have went to the game. If I didn't have to work, I'll go to the game.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah,
it's probably electric.
Definitely, for sure. Well, good luck to your Mets. Hopefully they win because I would love to see a Subway Series in the World Series because we already know the Yankees is going. So.
We'll see. Hope so. Anyway, let's get out of here. Let's go watch some playoff baseball, some NFL action. Thanks for sticking with us. For Dre, Kristi, and Steve, I'm the Luch. See you later.